History awaits for all the wrong reasons this afternoon at the Adelaide Oval as the Crows host the Eagles. Adelaide staring down the barrel of a sixth straight loss for the sixth time in their existence, whilst West Coast could complete their worst start to a season ever with their 11th defeat this afternoon and would become the first side in history to have 8 straight losses by 50 points or more if the margin does blow out today. Shannon Hearn returning for the visitors after a calf injury. Taylor Walker is back from COVID protocols, but there has been a late change for the West Coast Eagles. Jeremy McGovern is out with a back injury. Luke Foley is into the 22 for them. Aaron Bryan's with you to call the action on Grandstand AFL, and alongside me is Neil Cross. Welcome, Crossy.
Aaron, just wonder which side's under more pressure. It's extraordinary day and, complete with the miserable seasons that I guess in many ways both clubs have enjoyed. The conditions, right on cue, just as the sides ran onto the ground, the rain started to fall.
We do have Liz Walsh down the boundary. We'll head down to her very shortly. She's rugged up and ready to brave the conditions across the afternoon. Firstly, your experts, it's a loaded box on Grandstand AFL this afternoon. Firstly, welcome back to three-time premiership player Ebony Marinoff. Welcome, Ebs.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, an ordinary day here in South Australia, so it'll be interesting, to see how many Adelaide fans flock out to the Adelaide Oval, which is a pretty crucial match for both teams. And yeah, West Coast going into potentially lose its 8th straight, and Adelaide Crows, we kind of speak about at the start of the season that it looks so promising, but having lost five in a row, it's kind of gone downhill.
Alongside Ebony Marinoff, it's a premiership teammate joining us, a special guest in the box this afternoon, Talia Raiden. Welcome to Grandstand AFL.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
And also a guest out from the West as well, the West Australian zone, Jordan McArdle is with us. Welcome, George.
Thanks, Matt. Good to be here and get the late call up for this one.
Plenty to dissect for both sides, and as Ebony just touched on, I think for the home side, the Crows, everything's on the line for them this afternoon. The Eagles obviously don't want the history books to record how bad this season has been, but a loss for Adelaide, who are clearly the favourites heading into this contest, could do some awful things to Matthew Nix's tenure and the state of the footy club.
Yeah, absolutely. I think typically West Coast have matched up very well against Adelaide, and we've seen them win 5 of their past games against Adelaide. So you're right, it's a real danger game for Adelaide, and I think Matthew Nix spoke about it during the week about how important it was to essentially lift that curse against the Eagles. So I'd expect them to be very switched on, and they certainly won't be taking the Eagles lightly.
And heading into the bye, it's really important, and within the 4 walls, they know how crucial this game is, and that can actually come with a little bit of pressure. But going into and heading into the bye with such a disappointing month, I can imagine Adelaide Crows are going to come out firing. But then on the other hand, you speak about, they've won the past 5 games, and those games against Adelaide Crows, West Coast have won convincingly. There haven't been close games. They've been over 30 plus points. So they'll have confidence coming into this game, and we're going to speak about it all day, but it really is a danger game and season defining for both clubs.
It's been the perfect storm for the West Coast Eagles this year. I know they've been playing really poorly, but I'm happy to give them a bit of an out because a lot of their players missed pre-season. They've had COVID, which has caused some problems in the weeks after as well for players having lingering issues. They haven't had a consistent 22. A lot of their star players are out at the moment long term. They're just battling to get through this year. The question this week has been about effort. It feels like in some of the games where they have been blown out, especially the past 8 that have been by 50-point margins, that maybe they aren't really putting the best of themselves out there. But surely when your season's on the line and the club has its back against the wall, this young core is trying to do everything it possibly can to at least put up a decent result.
It's so difficult being stuck at the bottom of the ladder, and you know that your season's done essentially. So that motivation can be particularly difficult. It requires real mental resilience beyond what you'd expect from a club that's perhaps in the running for finals. So we can understand the position that the Eagles might be in, and the challenge getting up each week. It's certainly tough being down the bottom of the ladder, and it's a position that West Coast as such a proud club they haven't been in often. So hopefully today we'll see a great contest, and both clubs essentially pushing really hard to stamp their authority here today.
It was the year that the Crows women's side bottomed out after a couple of final series. What was it like inside the 4 walls there when you knew kind of the season was over quite early?
And you speak about injuries. It's actually it plays a huge part. I mean, we've spoken about Melbourne over the past 18 to 24 months. In the men's, they haven't had injuries, and I think when you are a part of a football club and there's large lists and injuries, they genuinely do become a factor. But it does come back to the effort of the boys who are picked. I mean, you might not be in that 22, but you are now, I guess, picking up a spot, and that's an opportunity for you, I guess, to hold your spot and showcase what you can do, knowing that, there's someone going to be coming in that is injured. But it's challenging, and we've got an honour board at the footy club, and it says 11th, and we kind of go, what happened that year? Like, it's there forever, and it's something you can't take back. And I think in the moment, we had, 3 of our best, 6 or so injured, and unfortunately back then our depth probably wasn't at the level, and that comes from, I guess, the younger girls coming through that they need to lift and be better. But I do, as a footballer, I do understand what injuries toll it takes on the football team.
Selection integrity, as you touched on at the Eagles, has been another factor of that perfect storm, that after the Collingwood win, they decided to dump all the young stars that led them over the line, and I think that's caused some internal problems as well by rushing back some key name players who now aren't really playing. Shuey's had consistent problems. He's playing this afternoon, but Elliot Yeo's now in the waffle. Dom Sheed's in the waffle. He hasn't come back yet as well. But I think there's a lot brewing at the West Coast Eagles that has culminated in today. The rain is heaving down at the moment. We might have to check downstairs. Welcome into the program, Liz Walsh. Liz, how are you doing down there? Because this looks pretty awful.
Can you hear me? It's like actually genuinely pouring to the point where I think I may as well not have a rain jacket on because everything is just wet. It is soggy, cold here at boundary level. It's not even good old-fashioned wet weather football. It's just torrential wet weather football. We're expecting up to 15 mils of rain. As you said, it's absolutely pouring. The wind is expected to pick up a bit later this afternoon too. But for those not in the commentary box, it's not just the rain, it's also freezing. It's currently 13 degrees.
And poor Liz got stuck with the kids' umbrella when she left the house today, so there's not a lot of cover down there at ground level. Stay safe, Liz. We'll check in with you ahead of bounce down. What one thing does with the rain, at least, Ebony and Talia, is that it does, I think, make this game a little tighter. I think on paper, Adelaide probably were a bit better in the middle. They've obviously been a stronger team throughout the year than the West Coast Eagles, who are without Jeremy McGovern now this afternoon. Wet weather footy with two sides that can't exactly use the ball very cleanly could create a pretty good contest.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, we think probably the game today will be won at stoppage, and whatever team can have first use of the footy around the stoppage. But then it's also that follow-up possession after that, and the importance of that being a clean handball, and perhaps that hasn't been the case for both sides in the last few rounds. So we probably expect the game will be won there, and I think it'll be really important to see which team can hold it inside their forward half of the ground, because in these conditions it can be so difficult to move the ball quickly across the ground, and holding it inside, for Adelaide's forward 50, it'd be really crucial today.
Could have been a big day out for Riley O'Brien as well, Ebs.
Yeah, absolutely. And given the fact that, being dropped a couple of weeks ago, he was a very, very big presence last week, and I think he'd probably be the first person to say it was a good time for that to happen. And, he sat on Sam Jacobs' toes for a few years, and I feel like, Kieran Strachan was on his tail, and unfortunately he found himself out. But the way he went about himself and came back, and like I said, his presence last week was enormous, but he's going to be huge today if he can, give the likes of Ben Keys and Rory Laird first use. Like we speak about, Luke Shuey doesn't look like he's found his best form. He was injury riddled, then came back early, and as a leader, you're in two minds. Do I come back and I want to keep giving to this team because we're not doing well, or do you actually let those younger guys have the opportunity to, I guess, expose themselves to AFL level and then come back and actually really impact at a high standard? But I think the midfield battle is going to be massive, and it's going to be those ground balls. I mean, it's going to be wet. It's going to be nothing fancy. Something that we probably haven't touched about during the week. Are Adelaide Crows going undersized in the defence? with this weather, they probably had the confidence to back the likes of Murray, Mitch Hinge and Duday to, I guess, come up against the likes of Kennedy and Darling.
And typically they've beaten the Crows by a lot in previous games, haven't they? I think Kennedy and Darling have kicked a lot of goals against our backs in previous matchups. So, we'll probably see Duday maybe have more of a one-on-one role today, more of a lockdown role rather than a third tall intercept. So that'll be interesting to see too.
The voices of Talia Raiden and Ebony Marinoff, your experts this afternoon on Grandstand. AFL bounce down about 3 minutes away at the Adelaide Oval, the first of a triple header with the Suns and North to come, and then Melbourne and Sydney. The text line across the afternoon as well, 0437 774 774. That's 0437 774 774. There was a late change, as we touched on in the build-up. Jeremy McGovern out with a back injury for the Eagles. It means that Luke Foley comes into the side. Shannon Hearn also returning for Jermaine Jones, who's out with a concussion. For the Crows, Patrick Parnell makes his debut when we're talking about that undersized back line. He comes into the side. Paddy Parnell at 178 centimetres out of last year's mid-season draft. Taylor Walker's back in as well. Jordan Butt's out injured with concussion. Luke Brown in health and safety protocols as well. So that undersized back line's certainly going to be tested, and thankfully the rain is now passed for the time being. It's still fairly overcast, and I imagine we're going to get some spurts as well. Let's head back downstairs to Liz Walsh and see how the toss went. Liz?
Yeah, as you said, Aaron, we've got a little bit of reprieve, but I've seen the radar, so I'm expecting more later on today. The Crows have won the toss. They'll kick to the southern riverbank end of Adelaide Oval. Looking to the benches today, and for Adelaide, Matthew Nix is coaching his 50th game for the Crows, and on his bench he's put Riley Thilthorpe, Mitch Hinge, Sam Berry and Ned McHenry. Harry Schoenberg is the Crows' medical sub, and for West Coast, in comparison, Adam Simpson today coaches his 109th game, and for his bench he's gone with Brady Hoff, Luke Foley, Connor West and Callum Jamieson. Patrick Naish is the Eagles' medical sub.
Talia Ebbs, your tips?
I think Adelaide will get up, but I think it'll be a much closer game maybe than anticipated. I think Adelaide by about 4 goals.
Yeah, I think Adelaide get the job done. Massive pressure over the past month, and like I said, the 4 walls, the boys have been grinding, and it's positive. So hopefully they get the win as an Adelaide Crow, but I think they'll get the job done.
George, any chance for the visitors today?
I think they might avoid one record, the 50-point one, but I'm not sure they'll avoid the 8th straight loss, unfortunately. The weather should make things that little bit tighter, though.
That record that Jordan mentioned, 7 straight defeats for the Eagles by 50 points or more, equalled Fitzroy in 1995 and the Giants in 2013. Another today would be an AFL record. It's been a woeful season for both these clubs. The Crows and the Eagles on Grandstand AFL. Who can capitalise heading into the bye? Here's Neil Cross.
These are the hard yards in the middle of the year if you're down the table. Out of the middle of the first contest, Laird got a hand pass just wide to Crouch for Adelaide, lost possession. Winder picked it up, gave it to Kelly for West Coast, back to Winder, inside 50 with his kick, and it should have been Hamill, who was spoiled by his own man coming back with a flight, Haitley. As a result, West Coast will get the ball through Gaff. Top of the goal square. Adelaide with numbers. Picked up by Saligo. Cleared away. It will find its way to Rowe. No, he slides in now over the ball. But Haitley tries to get the hand pass out towards the boundary. And it goes out there just outside attacking 50 for the Eagles.
Oh, massive contest there with Jackson Haitley and Will Hamill. Will Hamill actually looks pretty proppy, so we'll stay tuned, Liz, down there.
Trainer out there to check in on him as well. Boundary throw in to come though. Up towards the scoreboard. Right half forward for the Eagles. Bailey Williams taps it down straight to Kelly. Check side inside the 50 looking for Kennedy. Duday in front position knocks it down. Straight to Haitley for the Crows. Gives it off. Here's Parnell. First disposal early. Nice little chip kick out towards Laird. Hits him at left half back. Out on the eastern side, the Crows kicking to the Riverbank stand end. Grey skies behind the Max Bashir stand as Laird heads up towards centre wing. Packer waits. Hearn with the double fist, but there's a whistle on the play for a hold. Going Adelaide's way. Free kick will go to Taylor Walker, far from home. Loads up on the right. Bang towards left half forward. McAdam flies, can't bring it down. Bailey Williams coming through, lost it in the tackle. McAdam can go again. Hands it off to Keys. He's got 3 swarming on him. Drops the footy. Umpire says play on. McAdam from 40 out. Gives it to O'Brien. Short kick hit Rowe. Wasn't 15. Handball out. Messy. Crouch couldn't pick it up. Kelly comes in for the Eagles. Back to Gaff. And around the body it can be cleared by Foley.
Gets it down towards centre wing. It's pushing there as well. It'll be a West Coast free kicks. Taken by Cripps. So he's at right half back, eastern side of the ground. just takes his time, drops the ball in short. Kennedy with the lead up straight through the hands. Duday right on the boundary. Forward hand pass finds Crouch, who's kicked down the line. Found Fogarty. He's about 70, 80 metres from goal. So goes back, just chips the ball onto the lead. Coming was Walker, off hands, Kelly. And then they got it out to Gaff. And then Gaff clears the area to Kennedy again. Through the hands, Duday trailing, picks up the ball. Forward hand pass to Crouch, a 1-2. Inside 50 goes the kick. This time Walker at the back takes the mark. Right forward pocket. Had the better of Edwards, who limps away. Taylor Walker with the first shot in anger, if you like.
And that was just reward by great work by Duday. He's picked up the ground ball cleanly and delivered it inside 50 nicely.
So Walker will swing this one across the body from the left forward pocket. 18 goals, 11 in his 7 games this season. In he comes across the body. It's dropping short in the end, and Barras just knocked it through for the minus score. Didn't quite get that one, Walker. Adelaide leads by a point after 3 minutes. Liz Walsh, boundary.
Yeah, Will Hamill's just come from the ground after that clash in the opening minute of the game. He's just in the hands of the doctor. I'll keep an eye on him.
Shannon Hearn plays on from the defensive goal square. Pops it short to Witherden and looks towards the painted defensive 50 to Redden. Tim Kelly with 5 touches early. 100% efficiency after he was rated by Champion Data as the worst kick in the league today. Decent start at the Adelaide Oval as Redden heads down the eastern side. Clears Darling in a contest up with Walker and O'Brien and carries over the boundary line. It'll be tossed back into play, true centre wing. Great to have your company on ABC Radio and Sport Digital.
That's twice now West Coast have just bombed it long, looking for a tall target. It's not that type of footy today.
Toss back in. Williams got in front of O'Brien. Put it in front of Gaff, who's immediately swarmed by Laird. Isn't going anywhere. Ball up to come.
Just slightly ahead of the logo on centre wing for the Crows. Tap down straight to Laird. He was jumped on. Somehow it released. Keys got it out. Crouch slipped it wide for Haitley. Down the line he goes with his kick. Hearn came across. It went through his hands. Close to the boundary line. Picked up by Fogarty for Adelaide, and eventually ball taken over the line. We'll get a throw in. Just outside the attacking 50 for the Crows at left half forward.
Just the one behind so far for the home side. The 3-minute mark through Taylor Walker. Toss back into play. O'Brien gets in front position. Double slap down looking for Laird. Nelson cut it off. Gives it to Redden. Quick clearance for the Eagles up down the eastern side. Petrevski-Seaton in a one-on-one up against Hinge. Both held each other. And the spoil comes late to knock it over the boundary line. Slippery conditions downstairs. Hasn't made for a pretty game so far, but at least it's a competitive one between two sides on pretty lengthy losing streaks. Toss back in. O'Brien again in front position. There's a whistle before either ruck could get to the footy. Hold going the way of the Eagles. Luke Shuey, the recipient. Had a possible rib injury last week, but has got up for this game. He's been called to play on out on the eastern side, so he'll bang it down the line up to right half forward. Leading out Waterman, spoiled from behind. Murray got it down straight to Haitley. Off to Crouch and now Laird. Pushed as he kicked it for the Crows up to left half forward. Spiral through the air is spoiled away by Foley. Ricochets towards the painted defensive 50 for the Eagles, and Barras can pick it up. Uses Gaff through the square. Now Shuey to Hearn. Plenty of space to run into. Spears it towards the 50. Low to ground. Bailey Williams dropped to his knees but couldn't take it. Petrevski-Seaton with the assist. His handball wasn't clean. Now Winder tries to rip it out. He can't do so cleanly. And Parnell can exit for the Crows on the rebound. Nice kick to Millerer.
On his non-preferred foot, Millerer with a forward hand pass over the top. He gives it to Rowe. Rowe into the forward pocket for Walker. Got rid of his man. Runs back on the ball. Flicks a hand pass to McAdam, who shows it and then runs through and kicks the goal. Adelaide with the first. 1-1-7 for the Crows. West Coast yet to trouble the scorers after 6.5 minutes of the opening term. Long, direct and effective football from the Crows.
Well, that was just an excellent start, and that's why Paddy Parnell finds himself in the team. It's his ball use, and he's been grinding away in the sample, waiting for an opportunity. Luke Brown goes out with COVID protocols. It all starts with him, and then just a nice, neat play from Ned McHenry coming into the forward line, and really unselfish from Taylor Walker there.
So Paddy Parnell, 2 disposals, 100% efficiency already. As Ebbs touched on, a handy addition to this side. Came into this contest averaging 18 touches in the sandful. Now the Crows are up by 7 in the middle. Jamieson in the ruck against O'Brien. Got it down to Kelly. Shrugs off a couple. Retreats with a handball to Redden. Threw it on the boot, trying to get to West. Coming out though, Parnell again. Threw a boot out at it. Trickles through centre wing on the western side. Redden puts his head over the footy. He can't pick it up. And Saligo will be escorted over the boundary line to be tossed back into play. Short of right half forward for the Crows.
You could really see there, Paddy Parnell was so calm and composed as well, as Eb said, and that is something that perhaps Adelaide have lacked in the last couple of weeks, so great to see.
You think the crowds are pretty quiet? It's probably because only about 20,000 in here this afternoon on a cold, wet winter's day. Ball off the ruck contest, forward for the Eagles. West inside the centre square, flicks a hand pass to Cripps inside the centre circle, tackled as he kicked it, sent it out to the wing. McAdams there for Adelaide. Gaff was there and gave it back to Witherden for the Eagles. Witherden dodges round one, back to Gaff. Gaff sends his left foot long and high towards the forward 50. Ball comes to ground. Duday had a claim for a free kick. He didn't get it. Laird gave a hand pole up after getting the ground ball to Dawson. Inside the centre square, it rolls nicely for Fogarty. He looks up, open space in front of him, sends his kick long, bounce, slips through. Second goal of the afternoon for the Crows. Darcy Fogarty, the great hope in the forward line for Adelaide, shows some good form with that kick. Adelaide 2-1-13. West Coast yet to score through 8 minutes on Grandstand AFL. Your experts, Ebony Marinoff and Talia Radden.
Well, that's just confidence building from Darcy Fogarty. I thought it was his best game last week and probably had a bit more of a role to play as that tall forward. But he kicked 3 last week, and even his couple of efforts earlier on in the quarter, he looks like he's got that big Darcy Fogarty presence about him, and that's when he's playing his best footy, and the confidence just... There was no one inside 50, so he just pegged it forward and a nice finish, just rolled about 30 centimetres over the goal line.
Decent run of form for Darcy Fogarty now. 3 goals last week, 1 this week. Went goalless after round 1. But putting his hand up certainly for the future of this forward line at the Crows. 6-6-6 warning in the middle for the West Coast Eagles. Inside 50 count at the moment. Not looking too promising. 6-2 against them. In the middle, knocked down straight towards Rory Laird. Quick clearance towards the 50 for the Crows. Foley stuck a hand out, couldn't reel it in, then caught James Rowe high. Umpire saw it. Free kick to the Crows inside 50, 45 out from goal. Slight angle to the left. Rowe wants to move it, pierces it centrally. An awful kick in front of Thilthorpe. Coming across, Hoff was in the hole. Cut it off for the Eagles. Dangerous kick though out of defensive 50, straight to Saligo. Marks on the paint, hands it off to Dawson. We know he can load up from here. Heads towards the top of the goal square. Spoilt down, Foley's outnumbered. Thilthorpe applying some pressure. A worm burner out towards defensive 50. Laird's there to cut it off. Head over the footy, West on top of him. Kelly wrenches it out for the Eagles. His kick not a clean one. Goes again. Toes it towards the square. Now coming through. Cripps can't pick it up. He has to paddle back towards Laird of the Crows. Uses McHenry. Now Saligo runs into the 50. From 40 arches the back and finishes magnificently. Jake Saligo has the Crows third. 3-1-19. The Eagles yet to score. 10.5 played in the opening term. Liz Walsh downstairs on the boundary.
More good news for the Crows here that Will Hamill, the Crows physio, has heavily strapped his right ankle and he's just waiting now to come back on.
Jake Saligo just again showing why he's been such a great addition to this team this year with his class, and his finishing skills are immense, and that's what we have come to expect from Jake over the last few weeks, and I'm sure he'll continue to build in the side, for the rest of the season.
A lot of criticism of the Crows in the last 3 weeks or so for their poor finishing up forward. They've started well this afternoon. Get it in the hands of the good players, and that's what happens. In the middle, it was O'Brien with the tap down on the ground. Kelly just thumped it forward for West Coast. Ball still in close. Keys takes it away for the Crows. Over the shoulder with his kick inside half forward. Walker came. Barras just hit it forward. Foley tried to get a kick away, unsuccessful. Adelaide peel it through the hands. Back to Riley O'Brien, the ruckman. He goes into the forward pocket. Barras went back and the umpire paid it. He stopped the ball and then Thilthorpe knocked it away. So it'll be a free kick, or rather it'll be a mark paid to Barras. He goes short and wide. Hearn in the right back pocket.
Two premiership players combining. Just 8 of them out there for the West Coast Eagles. I say just 8, but fair bit of experience for this squad. Hearn pops it short, still in defensive 50 to Hoff. He's in a ripping run of form as well. Heads out towards the eastern side. Darling in front position. It bounced straight off his chest in the wet. Crouch was front and square. Handball wasn't clean. Gaff cut it off. Gave it off to Nelson. He can't keep it in play. Boundary throw in to come at left half forward for the Adelaide Crows. 3-1-19. The Eagles yet to score. Aaron Bryans, Neil Cross, Ebony Marinoff, Talia Radin with you as well. Jordan McArdle watching at the back as well for the West. Hear his thoughts on the Eagles very shortly. Toss back into play. O'Brien takes it out of the ruck contest. Tapped it straight in front of Sam Berry. Head over the foot, he couldn't pick it up. Clark was in there as well for the Eagles. He can't get it out. Keys a handball errantly. Looking for Smith. He was brought down without the footy before it reached him. Free kick going the way of the Crows. Attacking edge of the square. So Brodie Smith, a bit too far out. We know he can kick it long, but he'll have to centre his kick to Hinge. At half forward. Plenty of time to think about what he wants to do. Heads inside to Thilthorpe. Couldn't take it in the wet. Drops the footy. Now tries to gather at the deck. Diving in, a couple of Eagles try to make a contest. Spills out the back. Tunnel ball to Nelson. He's wrapped up by a couple. Got a handball clear to Gaff. And now Jamison can clear it for West Coast out through the corridor.
2-on-1 against Kennedy, and he got a shove, did Kennedy, from Dawson, said the umpire. So Kennedy will take the free kick back into the centre square for the Eagles, attacking that northern end of the Adelaide Oval in this first quarter. He drops it short and wide for Redden. Goes back into the corridor. The kick finds the chest of Hoff. So he looks onto this side of the ground. So they've completed the switch, but very slowly. Foley has it. Logo centre wing, broadcast side, down to half forward. Wasn't the greatest of kicks, and it was almost half volleyed by Hamill. He went back and got it to Duday by hand. He sends it back towards that Logo on centre wing. Nelson picked it up, got the hand pass away, and they work it through the hands through Redden and then Witherden, and Witherden can kick it inside forward 50, and he does, and O'Brien comes, could have taken a chest mark, double fisted it outside the area towards centre wing. Keys picked it up, gave it to McAdam, hand pass away then to Smith. His inside hand pass wasn't great. Crouch diving, just sent it forward again. It's around about the front end of the centre square for Adelaide, in dispute on the ground.
Picked up, speared out by McHenry with a handball to Miller. Nice little kick on the 45, finds Walker on the paint of 50. Really tight angle on the right-hand side. He's going back for the shot, Tex.
Good luck today.
A lot of talk over the past fortnight about his contract status and whether or not there's some clubs circling. Sure, he'd love to impress with a monster roost here at right half forward. Taylor Walker looking for his first. Short run up. Big kick though. Plenty of carry. It'll sit up on the behind line. McAdam flew. Spoiled away from him by Jamison. Boundary throw in to come right forward pocket. Riverbank stand end for the Crows. 3-1-19. West Coast yet to score. 15 played in the first on Grandstand AFL. Tim Kelly, Andrew Gaff with 8 apiece. Rory Laird has 7 for the Crows. Toss back in. Jamison in front position. Cleared both he and Tex at the back. Berry can gather for the Crows. Gives it to Crouch. Panic kick on the left. Sits up at the top of the goal square. McAdam again can't bring it down. And off hands it'll roll straight back to where we started. Right forward pocket for the Adelaide Crows.
You can see what Adelaide Crows are trying to do. They're really just surging it in the forward 50, and they're not, worried about Riley Thilthorpe and Taylor Walker actually taking them up. So it seems like they're wanting to bring it to ground and let the smalls in the forward line do the work.
Walker goes in the ruck for Adelaide. Jamison reaches over the top. Umpire said there was holding by Walker. He was in front position, so umpire said he had the arm. So Jamison will take the free kick. Look on that replay, he did have the arm. Slips the hand pass. Witherden coming out of defence, sends it to this broadcast wing. Over the back, Hamill waits, and it doesn't get that far. Punched down over the line by Murray for Adelaide. Just near the interchange gates, we'll get a throw in. Adelaide started well. 3-1-19 plays Donuts.
They won contested possession last week against the Cats, and they're up so far against the Eagles 29-21. Toss back in. O'Brien contesting against Williams. Neither get a clean tap. Spills down to Laird. Threw it on the boot towards the centre square. Nice kick to Haitley. He's got a runner in row. Gives it to him. Piercing kick inside the 50 to the chest of Walker, who marks 45 out from goal. Slight angle to the right. Good surge footy at the moment. Talia from the Crows. It feels like they're getting a bit of dare in their game.
we can really see lowering the eyes is helping. We're able to hit up some short targets, and that's meaning that we're able to hit these forward targets on the lead.
Speaking of targets, Walker spots one in Fogarty. Didn't really gain much territory. He's still 45 out from goal, and if anything, it's a harder angle.
I was going to say, I think that gained them maybe a centimetre.
So 45-degree angle to the right, 45 out from home. Starting at right half forward, Darcy Fogarty looking for his second. This will be hard work in the wet. Longer run up than Tex had before him. Kicks from the paint of 50. It's starting left, not really coming back. Big fly on the line from Walker. Tapped it straight down to Barris, who can clear for the Eagles. Back where it came from. Fogarty in the one-on-one with Winder, brought to ground. Whistle goes his way. Free kick to Darcy Fogarty, further out. This time about 55-60. Centres his kick this time. 30 from home and coming across. Waterman cuts it off in the hole for the Eagles. They trail by 19, approaching time on in the first.
Chips wide straight away and finds Shuey, who'll go back towards the corridor. Wasn't far enough to Hearn. Then Hearn goes outside 50. Mark taken by Hoff. So Hoff just outside defensive 50 for West Coast. Down the line he comes on this broadcast side. Dawson comes to the front. Almost held the mark. Came off the feet accidentally by Hamill. They won't count that as probably a stat, nor will they count it as not doing enough to keep the ball in play. We'll get a throw in right near the interchange gates. Adelaide by 19 points on Grandstand AFL.
Rain staying away so far after a couple of heavy batches before bounced out. Toss back in. Williams knocks it down off the feet of Murphy, coming through Kelly for the Eagles. Gets it to Shuey, shrugs through two. Back to Nelson. Kick smothered as it heads its way up to left half forward. Takes a bounce and Dawson's waiting for it. Handball back into defensive 50 for the Crows. Uses Duday and spots McHenry down the line. Hits him on the chest at right half back. On the broadcast side, the Crows kicking to the southern Riverbank stand end. On the 45, McHenry uses Hamill. And across half back, it's an awful kick that catches the side of the boot. It caught everyone, including the Eagles, off guard. Petrevsky-Seaton had to turn around to meet it. Uses West, then Redden up towards right half forward. Cripps caught behind Dawson, had to spoil. Spills towards the boundary line. And he becomes the tackler, Cripps, as he forces Hinge over the boundary line, right half forward near the scoreboard. The Eagles still yet to kick any score. 19 minutes played. Adelaide 3-1-19 on Grandstand AFL.
Don't want to start early, but Adelaide's only won one quarter this season, one opening quarter this season, and 10 losses. So they're in position to do something they haven't been able to do more than once this season. Off the ruck contest, Shuey sends it inside 50 for the Eagles. Picked up by Dawson, awkward hand pass, almost turned it over. Darling ran over it. Hamill knocked it out. Now they've got it out wider to Haitley. Bit of room there for Crouch. Hand pass over the top, found Millerer. Hand pass forward, found Rowe. Rowe then goes to the corridor with a kick. Wasn't a great kick. And it was intercepted by Duggan. So he arcs around on the left foot, sends it long for the Eagles. Inside forward 50, going back. Hinge taking a chest mark comfortably, unopposed.
Looks to switch out towards the western side. Bouncing ball finds its way to McHenry. Lowers the eyes. Nice kick to Thilthorpe. Uncontested right half back. Got a lead in Fogarty. Flat kick too short for him. Does well to gather off the bounce though. Races away. Does a 180 and beats Witherden. Heads up towards the 50. Walker's in a 2-on-1. Tries to get away from Barris. Slapped it down straight to McHenry. Berry on the paint of 50. Spots Murphy and hits him. 25 out from goal. Straight in front. Nice passage of play from the Crows.
Even more impressive, that passage of play. You can see both teams have now got a +1 in defence. So we've got Dawson back there for Adelaide and Shannon Hearns playing that role for West Coast down in D50. So to be able to hit up Lockie Murphy there with that nice low-fat flat pass was really excellent.
Difficult year for Lockie Murphy. Neck surgery in the pre-season. He's been goalless in 7 of the 8 games that he's played. 1 goal, 7. And in wet weather conditions, he just needs to kick straight here, and he doesn't. To the left, another minor score, 1-8 for the year. Adelaide now 3-2-20. West Coast yet to score, 21 played in the opening term. The Eagles rank last in the league for opposition scores per inside 50. Adelaide have had 16 for 5 now.
Hearn plays on. Takes his kick out onto the eastern side of the ground. Goes very long. At the back, nicely taken by Murray. Forced his man Darling under the ball. So the Crows will go forward again. Murray loads up Goes into the pocket with his kick. Walker leads out. Chest mark. And again, a good matchup. They're able to isolate whoever's on Witherden, and Witherden considerably shorter than the tall forwards of Adelaide. He's given up a couple of marks in that situation. Walker's about 40 metres out, 45-degree angle. So just to continue there, hopefully improving shooting a goal. Walker comes in and he lines it up and he doesn't miss. He was happy off the boot. The Crows are happy. And the crowd very much enjoying the afternoon thus far despite the weather. It's Adelaide 4-2-26 leading West Coast, well, again, yet to score after 22 minutes of the opening quarter on Grandstand AFL, your experts, Ebony Marinoff and Talia Radin.
Well, you've seen in previous weeks, the Adelaide Crows just haven't had that high efficiency going inside 50. And, I mean, previous to the Taylor Walker kick, they'd missed a couple of kicks, and it just shows how important lowering the eyes in wet weather footy. And what's been most impressive with Taylor Walker today is actually just using his body and twisting and taking a chest mark. He's not worried about taking it out in front in wet weather, where you've seen, you know, Jack Darling and that actually miss the ball.
So a hot start for the Adelaide Crows, and the Eagles look to be making history if this trend continues. They've given up another 6-6-6, the Eagles, in the first quarter. Free kick to O'Brien. Quick kick inside 50, looking for Walker, nearly brought it down again. Went through the legs of Laird. Crouch picks it up, gives it to Tex. Retreats back to Miller outside 50 and kicks nicely out wide to Fogarty. Hits him 45 from home. Very tight angle on the right, but a bit closer than his last few set shots.
Bit of a drive-by advice from Walker there as he's heading to the bench, and he just arced just to say something directly to Darcy Fogarty and then kept on his way.
Not sure what advice there is to give when there's no wind. It's just slippery footy. They just give it a bit of everything. Darcy Fogarty looking for his second. Trots in from 48. It's looking nice. That's an outstanding finish. The Crows with 5 unanswered goals in the opening term. West Coast Eagles heading towards a dismal record of 8 straight 50-point defeats if they continue this way. 5-2-32, plays no score. We've travelled 25 minutes at the Adelaide Oval. The West Jordan McArdle is with us this afternoon. George, is it the same old story for the West Coast Eagles at the moment?
Yeah, it certainly feels like it. The late out of Jeremy McGovern is just causing them havoc down back. Taylor Walker, I know he's only kicked the 1 goal, but he's had 5 score involvements already. He's been outstanding. When he's not marking the ball inside 50, he's bringing it to ground. So they started with Harry Edwards on him and moved Barras on him, but yeah, they're really battling to contain him at the moment.
Laird and Crouch with 9 disposals each for Adelaide in the midfield as well has been handy. In the centre again is Crouch over the ball. This time he's beaten for it. It goes forward to Cripps and then off to Kelly for West Coast. Kelly approaches 50. That will be taken, should be, by Kennedy. Oh, he couldn't have made a greater mess of it. He got rid of his man. Duday, who fell over in the end, had an uncontested mark, dropped it straight in front of him and then snapped for goal when he picked it up. And he missed from the top of the square. West Coast's first score of the afternoon. It's taken 25 minutes.
Crows go long out to the western side, off the pack. Rowe shrugs off his own teammate in Keys, then darts through traffic but is caught. Spun 360, got a handball away straight to Barras. He drops it in the Laird tackle. Ball comes towards the boundary line. Winders there, gives it to West. Panic kick, tumbles its way towards the 50 for the Eagles. Darling beaten by Murray, who taps it down to Hamill. Now Rowe uses Parnell. He heads long with a bang of a kick up to the logo, only as far as Barras, who cuts it off for the Eagles. Gee, Talia, what does that do for you when you finally get a chance at goal and you drop it at the top of the goal square?
I almost think he had too much time to think about it. He he had great body work and got rid of his opponent in Duday, but yeah, certainly seemed like it was too much time to think about it.
Waterman heads long down the line. Darling at the back of the pack tries to centre his kick inside 50. He could have gone for home from 45 and instead has turned it over straight to Ben Keys, who was waiting 30 out from the defensive goal line. Tucks the footy under his arm and goes for a run. Kick up to right half back for the Crows. O'Brien gets a run at it and claims it. A whistle going the Eagles' way though for a free. Nice pack mark for O'Brien. Not going to go his way as Murphy, the offender, gives it away. Now a long kick inside 50 from Barris. Heads to the left forward pocket. O'Brien's there again. Brings it down to Keys for the Crows. Underground handball to Hinge. Now Smith just tries to clear it around the body. Bounces off the back of Cripps and over the boundary line. It'll be tossed back into play. Left forward pocket in front of the hill. The Eagles one behind. 27 minutes played. The Crows 5-2-32 on Grandstand AFL.
So the tall forwards of the Eagles haven't been able to get in the game at all. The weather in that respect helping Adelaide's defenders. Ball back into play. Over the top it goes of the ruck contest. Onto the ground. Slipping and sliding around. West was there. Couldn't get it for the Eagles. McHenry was taken to ground. Cripps picked it up. Tried to push off a couple. So did Gaff. No success. No clean disposal. And the umpire comes in. Separates the players. And we'll get a ball up. After all that, the ball travelled all of about 5 metres.
One down by O'Brien. Straight to Berry. He's under immediate pressure from Kelly. Lost it. Winder gets it to Redden, puts it to the top of the goal square, bounces too short for Kennedy, tumbles to the boundary line. McHenry cleans up his teammate in Duday. Kennedy can gather, but his kick is smothered by Hinge. And over the boundary line, it'll travel. Toss back into play. It'll be close to the left-hand behind post. Approaching the 30-minute mark of this opening quarter, and at least the fans who've turned up in the wet are getting a decent show. Crows looking to snap a 5-game losing streak. Toss back in. O'Brien wins it down. Kelly had a fresh area out of the air trying to go for goal. Keys was smothered. Laird dives onto the footy. Nelson on top of him. Ball comes out to Winder. He's wrapped up by Hamill. Now Kelly swung in the tackle, dropped it, holding the ball. He wanted a holding free kick. Instead it's going Adelaide's way. And 50 as well. Duday will be marched to half back. Nothing going right for the West Coast Eagles at the Adelaide Oval. Tail of their season, really. Duday calls for a lead and no one stands the mark, so he can go. Races through the corridor, heads towards the 50, clears the pack, and time will beat the Adelaide Crows. Not that they've had any problems in this opening term. 5-2-32. The West Coast Eagles with one behind in the opening quarter. The goal scorers so far for the Crows, 2 to Fogarty, singles to McAdam, Saligo and Walker. It's great to have your company, a triple header of footy. The Suns and North to come in Darwin, Melbourne and Sydney tonight at the MCG. But for now on ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital, this is Grandstand AFL.
Oh my goodness.
Dear oh dear.
When they said, ask them anything.
No topic was really off the cards.
What did you do to end up in juvie? Bang, that's a big one.
We all have a story.
You don't look like you've got dementia.
And we all need to be heard.
You think you've dealt with it all, but then you get asked a question like this, brings it all back.
The brand new season of You Can't Ask That.
You shocked me more than the question.
Yeah, I know.
Wednesday nights on ABC TV or log into stream on ABC iView.
The 2022 AFL Premiership season. Grandstand AFL.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Miller with a forward hand pass over the top. He gives it to Rowe. Rowe into the forward pocket for Walker. Got rid of his man. Runs back on the ball. Flicks a hand pass to McAdam, who shows it and then runs through and kicks the goal. Ball comes to ground. Duday had a claim for a free kick. He didn't get it. Laird gave a handball to Dawson. Inside the centre square, it rolls nicely for Fogarty. He looks up, open space in front of him, sends his kick long, bounce, slips through.
Kelly wrenches it out for the Eagles. His kick not a clean one. Goes again. Toes it towards the square. Now coming through. Cripps can't pick it up. He has to paddle back towards Laird of the Crows. Uses McHenry. Now Saligo runs into the 50. From 40 arches the back and finishes magnificently.
At the back, nicely taken by Murray. Forced his man Darling under the ball. So the Crows will go forward again. Murray loads up. Goes into the pocket with his kick. Walker leads out. Chest mark. Walker comes in. And he lines it up. And he doesn't miss. He was happy off the boot. The Crows are happy.
This is the 2022 AFL Premiership season.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
For the 8th time in their history, the West Coast Eagles go through an opening quarter with just one behind, trailing Adelaide 5-2-32, a 31-point lead at the first break at the Adelaide Oval on ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital for Grandstand AFL. Aaron Bryans, Neil Cross, Ebony Marinoff, Talia Radin and Jordan McArdle with you. Liz Walsh downstairs on the boundary as well. Plenty of wet weather in the lead up to this game. So far, the rain has stayed away, but it's been pretty messy out there. That being said, it hasn't been the reason the Eagles have been struggling. They've conceded a ton of inside 50s and scoring opportunities for the Adelaide Crows, who are looking to snap a 5-game losing streak and have had a pretty hot start on the way there. Apologies for not reading out any text so far this afternoon. Unfortunately, the text line is down. I'll let you know when it's back and you can get involved. But for now, you're just going to have to listen to the excellent analysis from our experts. Talia and Ebbs, what did you make of that opening quarter?
It really just shows the scoreboard pressure and how important it is, and Adelaide haven't had a chance to put a big score on the board in the first quarter in the last couple of weeks, and that's been a real source of frustration for, I think, the team, coaches and the supporters as well. So just a nice scene to go in at quarter time and see 32 points on the board as opposed to 0 goals 5. It does wonders for your energy going forward in the game.
I think the most impressive thing from the Adelaide Crows today is their ability to score off turnovers. I find, throughout the season, that's what teams have been doing to Adelaide Crows, just because they bring Dawson back and they have that spare, and the opposition are actually able to have the ability to go forward, but they're doing what teams do to them. And in this game of 6-6-6, those turnovers are really crucial. I mean, they've scored 5 goals, 2 from turnovers. And another big one for me is Darcy Fogarty. I mean, he's been under pressure ever since he probably got into the club, because he was just this dominant big boy in the under-18s who probably potentially had his growth spurt before all his other teammates. But he's started on fire, and that comes with continuity and confidence as a footballer. But his ability to just bring it to ground as well as capitalising is known for his goal kicking, and he backs himself in. But it's a great sign for Adelaide fans to see Darcy Fogarty fit and firing. It's a weird change after the start of the year that he had. He just seems like a whole new person after the past couple of weeks. Yeah, absolutely. And it was really tough for him because, Gallant and Himmelberg were in, and he was just digging away. And Matthew Nix had really honest conversations with Darcy Fogarty, and he was working on many things in the SANFL. And he did his time. He had about 5 to 6 weeks in the SANFL, and he was actually able to come back, and he had a couple of weeks where he was lacking confidence, but when you play at AFL for a couple of weeks, you get confidence. And, you find in all teams, when you've got confidence and you believe in yourself that you belong at this level, it shows on the field. George, any positives for the West Coast Eagles in what was a pretty dismal quarter?
They at least won the clearance battle, 11-7, but their disposal was really off, wasn't it? You mentioned Tim Kelly being rated the worst kick in the competition by Champion Data. He's living up to that again. He's had 10 disposals, but kicking it only at 50%. So, they're certainly getting their hands in the footy in the middle, and, been reasonable in the midfield, but they just can't get the ball inside 50. Adelaide winning that 19-8 at the moment, and most of those inside 50s by the Eagles, they've just been intercepted by the Crows' defence, who are just setting up so much better than the Eagles right now.
The voice of the West, Jordan McArdle, alongside Talia Radin, Ebony Marinoff, Neil Cross, Aaron Bryans with you. It's the Crows by 31 points at quarter time. Can the Eagles fight back at the Oval? Williams wins it down in the middle for them, but straight to Laird. Shrugs a tackle and gives it to Crouch. Back to Laird. Over the top to Keys. Easy transition through the middle. Now O'Brien can load up. Heads to the scoreboard pocket. Barris gets a fly, loses it in the air, and Walker's waiting at the back. Drops to his knees and claims the mark. 40 from home. Slight angle to the right. Hot start early for the Adelaide Crows. Tex had first in the opening term. In the West Coast Eagles, away from home, trying to avoid the record books. That is not how you want to come out of quarter time. Taylor Walker, long run up. Decent year so far, averaging 2.5 goals per game. Looking for his second. At the start of the second, it's long and hitting the left-hand goalpost. Minor score to start the second term on Grandstand AFL. The Crows by 32 points. Liz Walsh downstairs.
Mitch Hinge has started on the bench this quarter for the Crows, and he's currently in the hands of the physio. Looks like he's having an issue with his right hip. I'll keep an eye on him.
Well, they've gone short to Nelson, and he's marked the ball at West Coast just inside defensive 50 on this broadcast wing. And finally Darling gets front position on Murray, takes a strong contested mark just behind centre wing, keeps the ball low down the line. Winder couldn't take it, offhand scramble on the ground, and Crows in with a couple of big tacklers on Kennedy, picked up by Shuey, gave it wide for Redden. Down the line he goes, beautiful little chip, finds Waterman just outside attacking 50, hard against the boundary line. And it looks like Kennedy's been opened up in that last piece of play. He's coming off the ground. Looks like blood will go down to the boundary line in a moment. Meanwhile, his partner in crime, Darling, has gone forward. The ball's been delivered by Waterman, and he's taken a contested mark 25 out to the right of the goals. Liz Walsh on the boundary.
Yeah, he's just come straight onto the bench, and the doctors rushed. I'm talking about Josh Kennedy, by the way, from the Eagles. They're just mopping up his blood now. I'll keep an eye on him as well.
So Darling with a shot at goal. They haven't got one yet, the Eagles. They haven't won a second quarter this season at all. So this would be a good start. And Darling kicks truly. They get one back, long awaited, their first goal of the afternoon. And it comes at the 2-minute mark of the second term. West Coast 1-1-7, Adelaide 5-3-33 on Grandstand AFL.
Well, it was just a lovely delivery inside the forward 50 from Waterman. He lowered his eyes, and the mixed match of, Darling there with Murray, he actually was able to get front spot. And we spoke about the likes of Taylor Walker and Darcy Fogarty getting their hands on the footy as a tall man. West Coast need to see Darling and Kennedy really making a huge presence. It's actually cleared up here, so we might get a bit more forward half football from West Coast.
Liz Walsh downstairs on the boundary.
Yeah, now Crows' Tom Duday's come from the ground. He's got blood pouring out of his right eye, just below his right eye. He's gone into the rooms with the doctor.
26-point lead to the Crows. Free kick in the middle going the way of the home side. Umpire signals the way of Matt Crouch in the middle against Tim Kelly. So Crouch looks to play on quickly. Long ball towards 50. It'll sit up short in the end, and diving low to ground. The mark's taken for the Crows. Miller got down low and claimed it. Caught everyone off guard with the trajectory. And Wayne Miller, who started his career at half back, been playing half forward the past couple of weeks as he tries to find his way back into the system after a long layoff.
I mean, he's an impressive young kid, and he's very loved at the football club, and it's really hard as a footballer when you're injured or you're riddled so much, but he's got great poise, and that's why he's found himself back into the team as he misses that shot on goal. But he's just got class and he's got X factor. Hopefully we see him back to his best.
Surprised they have been playing him at half forward, Ebbs, because he isn't exactly a great kick for goal, as we just saw. A minor score for Adelaide, up by 27.
Hearn takes the ball into the left back pocket. Barris was there, took the uncontested mark and then dropped it short, just outside or just inside 50. Nelson went to his knees to take it. Murmurs around the crowd. They want more from the Crows. Great opening quarter, kicked 5 goals. Nelson goes down towards centre wing with a long kick, and O'Brien took a nice, strong, contested mark for Adelaide. So he dishes off the hand pass to Dawson, the preferred kicker, and why not? Dawson thumps it long. Walker is in the middle of a 8-man pack. Ball comes to ground, falls to him, and just out of his hands. Now West Coast with Redden, gave a hand pass out. Ball in contest again. Comes out to Winder, over the head. He gets the hand pass away, and they'll get it out of sight of their defensive area, only for Hinge to mark it for Adelaide. Will send them back forward for the Crows.
Plays on, heads towards the left forward pocket. 3-on-1 against McAdam. Off hands, it spills to the back. Fogarty's nudged away from it by Hearn. Uses with it and who has to retreat to the behind line. He's tackled over it in the end by McAdam. Just desperate to get it away from the Crows, and the minor score will go the home side's way. Up by 28 points now. We've travelled 5.5 through the second quarter. Now Witherden just desperate for a lead. Finally gets one from Jake Waterman, far from home in the scoreboard pocket. Takes the mark in defensive 50. Josh Kennedy still on the boundary line getting his cut. Tended to. Tom Duday hasn't returned either. Across the goal face. They look to switch. Edwards takes the mark. Now to Barris. Exits defensive 50 to the western side. Finds Foley, the laid in from McGovern. Uses Redden. Then Clark. Tackled as he kicked it, but long down the line. He looks for Darling, who tunnels McMurray. Takes it at the back. Gives it off to Cripps, and he shanks it. That's an awful shot at an open goal. Out on the full. Free kick to the Crows in the left back pocket.
Umpire calls play on as Smith considered going short. In the end, he went too short. Gave it to Jordan. Dawson, who kicked it outside 50 in the end. Hately came forward, took a chest mark. Right on the 50. Under pressure from Redden, that's 50. Darling ran, he was running with Duday. Duday cut left. Darling thought, well, I've got no choice, I've got to cut right. And the umpire says, well, you're too close to Haitley. I'm sure he's asking the umpire, what do you want me to do? Disappear. Anyway, Haitley has the ball at the front end of the centre square now. Hand pass wide, goes to Hinge for Adelaide. Hinge approaches 50, kicks long, and intercept mark taken comfortably by Jamieson for West Coast.
Tough start to his career. Jamieson, his first game, he was played at full back as against the North Melbourne. Since then, the 21-year-old, 200 centimetres, only averages 8 hit-outs a game and 8 touches. He's been monstered against a few opponents. Went short. Now Kelly can exit defensive 50. Kick is error, and he was trying to get it to Hoff. Easily gotten rid of by Smith. Intercept taken by Adelaide in front of the benches, broadcast side. Smith plays on. No one can chase him as he uses the angle inside. His kick goes straight back to Kelly. Takes the intercept in defensive 50. West Coast can try again. Adelaide is zoned off on the western side. The Eagles trying to find some holes, and Kelly doesn't go towards any of them. Off the side of the boot, out on the full. Free kick to the Crows, left half forward.
Can we just pretend we didn't have the last 3 or 4 minutes? Well, Adelaide takes it. Smith inside 50 with his kick. Big pack, falls to the back. Chance maybe for Murphy. No, overran it. Miller has it on the ground, just knocks it forward. Jamieson tried to send it through. Fogarty got it. Walker got it. Hand passed it off. Wait, will that be a goal? I think it is for Miller. And it is. I thought for a moment the goal umpire was going to say no, it was through in that situation. But quick reflex handballs by the Crows and another goal. 6-5-41. West Coast 1-1-7. 8 minutes down in the second term.
Well, you would have thought that was Junior's first goal in a while, because the whole team got around him, run from full back. But that's just excellent hands inside the contest, not just, rushing it through or behind, actually, capitalising, getting 6 points. And again, Darcy Fogarty and Taylor Walker involved. And one thing about Taylor Walker, he knows, what goal assists and score involvement's about, and he loves to bring his teammates into the game. And I think that's Wayne's first goal in a couple of years since being out of the game.
Round 17, 2019. It's the long layoff with the knee. His third game of the year, he finally gets on the scoreboard. In the middle, Jamieson knocked it down. Berry charges through. Handball back to Keys. The Crows through the middle. Keys gets a nice run at it. Plenty of time to think about what he wants to do, and the kick isn't a great one. Bounced off Witherden. Now Foley at the back for the Eagles. His kick, a little dinky one that Smith can cut off. Couldn't claim it cleanly. Coming through, Duggan's wrapped up by a couple. Ball up to come right half forward for the Adelaide Crows, close to the scoreboard. Kicking to the northern end in this second term.
We've seen Adelaide set up a really effective zone in this quarter, and West Coast are finding it really hard to penetrate that, and we're seeing a lot of dump surge kicks. So great work across half-back by Adelaide to really limit West Coast movement across the ground.
Well, they cleared it down to centre wing, and sliding into the ball was Parnell, and the young Adelaide player was caught, so he just threw the ball down to his foot and kicked it in the air, and in the end they forced the ball up. It comes wide for Murphy, and then crouched, and he went back to Smith, and his ball was smothered by Redden over the boundary line on centre wing out there on the eastern side of the ground. And the crowd probably enjoying the conditions now. They're not that bad. I mean, for somebody who's sitting up here. Let's go down to Liz Walsh.
Actually, it's not too bad here now either. I've put my sunglasses on. You wouldn't believe it. Patrick Naish, the Eagles medical sub, has just stood up, started doing a few little runs, warming up. We still haven't seen Josh Kennedy come back from the rooms after his head knock.
Off the ruck contest, Sam Petrevski-Seaton with a quick clearance inside 50. Hamill can cut it off. Nearly caught one high from Williams. Gave it off to Parnell. He's crunched. Ball comes out to Cripps. Check side left forward pocket. Tight angle is no chance. Out on the full. That's another missed opportunity for the Eagles. They're getting some entries, but just can't hit the scoreboard. Trailing by 34 points, 11 minutes into the second. Short kick from Murray. Hits Dawson. He'll exit defensive 50, spots Haitley all alone at left half back. Get a space on Andrew Gaff. 27 touches last week for Jackson Haitley. He's in a ripping run of form. The first round pick from the Giants. Heads up the western wing. Phil Thorpe can get a run at it. Too late to the contest though. It's spoiled away from him. Stays in the field of play. Berry low to ground, got a handball to Keys, sold him into immediate danger, and the Eagles come from everywhere to bring him to the ground. Ball up to come in front of the benches. Aaron Bryans, Neil Cross, Ebony Marinoff, Talia Radin, and Jordan McArdle with you on Grandstand AFL. Ugly footy so far, Crossy.
At times. Crows will be happy though. Or certainly their fans, shall we say, will be happy. They've got a 34-point lead against a side, of course, that has been smashed this season, both on the scoreboard and with injuries and COVID. So the ball's rolled over the line near the interchange gates. It'll come back into play. It'll be Jamison to go against O'Brien, who knocked it down. Gaff on the ground did well. Released a hand pass, hoping for Kelly. Kelly under pressure. Around the body, down the line. Smith almost pulled it down for Adelaide. Picked up by Haitley. Hand pass back to Parnell. Looks inside, uses his pace, and then just chips the ball. Wasn't fantastic. It ended up with Gaff. Gaff gave the hand pass off and gets one back from Winder, and inside 50. His kick was good. Off to Waterman. Waterman hits the post as he takes the mark, decides to play on, and hits the right post from the right forward pocket. And really, that should have been a goal for West Coast. They get the minus score. 6-5-41 Adelaide. West Coast 1-2-8, and 12 minutes down in the second term.
Poor decision making from Jake Waterman. The Crows exit defensive 50. Miller and the pack couldn't claim it, but knocked it to Laird. Got it back. Now uses Haitley, who tumbles it up down the western wing. Only as far as with it and cut it off, and then tackled Keys. Got it out though. McAdam. Now down the line, Philthorpe did very well. Tapped it on to Laird. Heads towards the 50. Walker's in a 2-on-1 with Barris sitting back with Hearn. Barris can gather. Forced to kick around the body. Just outside the paint of 50. Jamison Flew was tackled in the air by Berry and gave away the free kick. West Coast have it. Right half back. Trailing by 33 points. Jamison long down the line to an outnumber Adelaide's way, and Philthorpe can cut it off. Frustrating footy if you're a West Coast fan. Philthorpe into the corridor. Hits up Hamill, plays on around Kelly. Handball to Keys, kept going. Keys high into the 50 now. Spots Fogarty. Stood his ground in the air, just floated. Was crunched, didn't move. And clunks it 40 from goal, straight in front. Liz Walsh down on the boundary.
Still no sign of Eagles Kennedy, but still no sign of Tom Doedee either. The Crows have just said he needs stitches in his head, but he should be back soon.
What a rocket Darcy Fogarty has been given the past few weeks. Goalless for multiple rounds, has 3 at Cardinia, and now looks for his 3rd in the second quarter at the Oval. That is a brilliant finish. Darcy Fogarty is back. And the Adelaide Crows could be back on the winners list as well. Out to a game-high 39-point lead at the Adelaide Oval. 7-5-47 plays 1-2-8. 15 played in the second on Grandstand AFL.
Well, it certainly wasn't the kick that Ben Keys would have been hoping going inside 50, but as a forward, you just got to be alert, and Darcy Fogarty again using that big-bodied presence about him. Strong hands, and God, he's a beautiful finish of the footy.
I just love how relaxed he is kicking through the footy, and that's a sign of confidence as well. You can see his set shots at the moment. Beautiful, balanced kick, and he's getting the results on the scoreboard.
Darcy Fogarty, big boom for Adelaide, showing some of his style. Give him a lot of confidence this performance. Out of the middle will be a free kick to Adelaide. Laird with a tackle, Shuey with a throw. Laird now hand passes off to Smith. Inside 50 he goes long. McAdam at the front. Nudged under it, Barris at the back, took it away, gave it to Witherden by hand. Witherden clears the area, bouncing towards the line. Umpire said insufficient intent. He got a bad bounce. And it's a free kick to Adelaide. Hamill, right on the boundary line, called to play on.
They're hot on those, Crossy, this year. Hamill heads towards the top of the goal square. Philthorpe can't get a fly, nearly claims it at the back and then gets stripped of it. Kelly ran through and grabbed it out of his arms. Back to Witherden. The Eagles now through Nelson. Spiral punt out of the 50. Bit too low for Waterman. May have been taken in the back by Hinge. Umpire says play on. Hinge can gather. Tried to kick inside 50. Was tackled in the process. Out on the full or deliberate. They paid deliberate. If you're trying to kick inside 50 for a shot on goal, that cannot be deliberate. They're very harsh on that if you don't kick anywhere near a player. Eagles now try to go down the western side. Williams with 4 bites at the footy. Claims the pack mark against Dawson. Centres his kick, nice to Waterman in the corridor. Doesn't have a lot ahead of him. He'll have to load up. Bang to the one-on-one. Kennedy's waiting against Murray. Darling brings it to ground. Off the deck, socket away by Smith towards the behind line. He can gather, doesn't want to keep it in, and finally Darling forces him over. Minor score to the West Coast Eagles. Hard to come by for the visitors. 139. Adelaide 7-5-47. 17 played in the second quarter. Liz Welsh downstairs.
Good news for Adelaide. Tom Duday's back. He's got a great bandage under his eye. He's ready to come back on. But for Kennedy, he's just come back out from the rooms as well. But he's still surrounded by medical staff. I'm waiting for an update from West Coast. I'll give it to you as soon as I get one.
Adelaide near the boundary line on this broadcast side of the ground. Murphy just kept the ball in. That's how their confidence is going. West Coast have some numbers. Shuey wants a high tackle. He's not going to get it. It'll be a ball up about 5 metres from the boundary line. Right half forward for the Eagles. Umpire clearing away the debris of that collision. O'Brien just trying to tap it down towards Murphy. Didn't quite get there. Berry at the bottom of the pack picks it up, and the bull that he is gets tackled by a couple and taken to ground for another ball up.
Quick reset. O'Brien again in front position. Petrevsky-Seton tried to get there with his head over the footy. Berry beat him to it. Swung down by Clark. Will try again. 15 touches to Tim Kelly, 14 to Rory Laird, 12 to Haitley and Gaff. O'Brien again wins it down. Murphy was there, got a handball out quickly to Crouch, just in hope. Shuey cuts it off, tumbles his kick up towards the 50. Clean bowls Jack Darling, and waiting at the back is Brodie Smith, who races away for Adelaide. Awful kick somehow works to Haitley.
Effective.
Handballs off to Laird, 1-2 with O'Brien rather in the middle, then uses Smith. Looks to switch out to the eastern side. Spots Dawson. Hands over the top. There's just no pressure on the Crows as they keep going. Parnell, the debutant, heads into the scoreboard pocket. Mick Adams outnumbered 3-1. Barris comes across. There's a blocking free kick, though, going Mick Adams' way. All West Coast had to do was just cut it off. They had the numerical advantage. And Adelaide instead will have a shot on goal. 15 out, tight angle to the right.
Important one here for McAdam to score and get his confidence up after a couple of weeks. So let's see if he can pop it through.
The 27-year-old kick for his second of the afternoon from 30 on the tight angle. Started right, but he's done enough. Another major for the Adelaide Crows. It's getting to the point where the celebrations aren't even that impactful because the margin just continues to blow out. 44-point lead to the home side. 8-5-53. West Coast 1-3-9. Approaching time on in the second on Grandstand AFL. Aaron Bryans, Neil Cross, Talia Radan and Ebony Marinoff with you.
Well, we're all a little bit in shock waiting for the replay. I don't think that was too much in it. But, you can see Shane McAdam, creating a free kick for himself. Kennedy and Darling actually need to capitalise on, the likes of Nick Murray standing. There's a couple of opportunities where Darling's just, gone to ground and hasn't kept his feet because he's, trying to body Nick Murray out. He actually needs to just use his body and keep his feet and capitalise like the tall forwards of Adelaide have been doing.
Well, West Coast have left themselves with no ruckman in that centre situation there. They almost made a 6-6-6 error. It's been knocked forward by O'Brien and Duggan forces a ball up. They were lucky there. West Coast were utterly confused about who was going into the square and who wasn't. Kelly's taken it off the ruck contest now. It's held in tight. We might get another ball up. No, Berry almost got it out. He did extract it in the end. And now Petrevsky-Seton, haven't called him often, makes the tackle on Laird, forces another ball up down to the boundary again. Liz Walsh.
Yeah, some good news for West Coast. Josh Kennedy is back out on the ground now. His head covered in bandages.
From the ruck contest, Jamison got it down to Petrevsky-Seton, swung in the tackle, and the non-controlling umpire spots a free, going the Eagles' way for the dump. So Lockie Murphy, the offender, Petrevsky-Seton will take it. On the 45, he hits Duggan through the corridor. Down the line looking for West. Kick was a bit short. Gathered off the bounce and sprung back up. Handball to Duggan. Then Hearn. Heads long towards the left forward pocket. Kennedy's out there and crunched the pack. Darling at the back fell to ground and nearly claimed it. He's been given it. On the paint of the boundary line, the ball tumbled over. Darling was looking at the footy. Lost it as Kennedy collided with the pack and it's fallen into him. Tightest of angles. 25 out. Jack Darling's going to have to make this work. Opens the angle, runs around. It's a flat kick, but it's effective. Jack Darling gets the Eagles second. Comes at the 21-minute mark of the second quarter. Back down to a 38-point margin. Adelaide 8-5-53, West Coast 2-3-15. Great to have your company on ABC Radio and Sport Digital for Grandstand AFL.
I think you found there Tom Duday actually knocked out of Jack Darling's hand, so probably a free kick given there. Again, we speak about, you know, the big boys getting involved and having a presence, and that's what West Coast need, and a lovely finish, and now he's kicked 2 for the quarter, so that's a good sign for West Coast fans.
2 for the quarter, the only 2 goals that the West Coast has kicked. 38 points remains the margin for those in the West. Sorry to tell you. Again, they've been overwhelmed in many ways, the Eagles. Back in the middle. Tap down, finds Crouch in the end. Forward hand pass, he was looking for Laird. And it was knocked away, and boy, that looked like a high tackle. And it was. There's a little bit of afters. Foley with a big swinging arm. And McHenry will pick up and take his free kick. He wasn't injured at all, but he was taken high. Gave it to Rowe at half forward. Rowe's kick inside 50 was pretty ordinary. All he did was find Redden's chest. The West Coast player going back in front of the leading forward for Adelaide.
Former Lion Premiership player Redden heads down the line. He's looked for Waterman. Coming through, Dawson got a hand to it, knocked it down to Kelly. Kick as he was tackled, found its way to Petrevski-Seton. He looks wide to Winder. Through the eastern side, heads into the 50. Darling again, should have claimed it. Had 3 bites against Murray. Picks it up and then sprays it out on the full. It was all there for Jack Darling and he couldn't capitalise. Free kick to the Crows, right back pocket. Leading by 38 points.
Third time they've put the ball out on the full. West Coast. Twice by Cripps as he kicked for goal. So long kick from Adelaide's defence only finds the West Coast ruckman in Jamison, and Jamison sends it high back inside attacking 50, slips over the back. Kennedy just knocks it further, then gathers it himself, then hand passes to Gaff, top of the square. Gaff turns and kicks a goal. So West Coast get consecutive goals for the first time in the match. They go up to 3-3-21. Adelaide 8-5-53, still in control, but they've slipped a bit. 24 down in the second term on Grandstand AFL.
That's just come off the back of really increased pressure inside forward 50 for West Coast, and it's probably the first time we've really seen that intensity rise today by their forwards. So great knock on there, as we can see. Darling and Kennedy both combining there for a great goal.
Tackle count going the way of the home side, 40-27, but in the second quarter, the Eagles certainly finding a fair bit of the footy, 48 touches to 39, and improving their tackle count from the opening quarter, just trailing by 3 now. 32-point margin. In the middle, O'Brien slaps it down, looking for Keys. Tumbles its way towards half forward. Keys can pick it up, gives it to Laird. Heads to the top of the goal square, looking for Thilthorpe. Nearly claimed it. Hearn knocked it down. Coming through, McAdam can kick a goal from 15 out. He's got 3. And just like that, all the momentum West Coast were building is dashed. 9-5-59 plays 3-3-21, 25 played in the second term on Grandstand AFL.
That is just the simplest win inside the centre bounce, and it just goes to show how important centre bounce clearance are. And many head coaches speak about how crucial they are, and that's why many of the ruckmans are paid the big bucks. But that's just neat play from Rory Laird and Ben Keys just teaming up together. And then Shane McAdam's presence down in the forward 50 has been excellent all year. He probably hasn't kicked as many goals as he has over the past couple of weeks, but it's just staying involved and a beautiful centre clearance. And now they find themselves back in it after a couple of ordinary minutes.
Clearance this time for West Coast. Came to Shuey. Shuey sends it at the top of the 50. It was almost taken by Petrevski-Seton. He lost it in the end. Now he's had it and lost it again. Ball on the ground. Smith picked it up while he was on the ground. What does the umpire think? Says, give it to me. So 48 from goal, straight out in front of those goals at the River Torrens end of the ground. And it'll go in the air, and the knockdown favoured West Coast. Petrevski-Seton, I think it was, it was Kelly who got the hand pass out. Now Adelaide, looked like a high tackle. Umpire didn't think so. Hinge was the man at the bottom there, and he was tackled by Hoff. So ball up, about 25 out just to the left of the goals that are being attacked by West Coast.
O'Brien slaps it down straight to Berry. Quick clearance out of defensive 50. McAdam in front position, couldn't reach it in the sky. Nelson, panic kick up towards the arc. Bounced through Winder. Smith waiting at the back, uses Dawson. Heads back up the eastern side to a pack, and Witherden just wants to see it out of play. Restore some order at the Adelaide Oval. Boundary throw in to come. Left half forward for the Eagles, trailing by 38 points. Find it quite surprising, Ebbs and Talia, that Jack Darling this quarter is one of the better metres gained players for the West Coast Eagles when he's playing out of the goal square. Tells you something about how the midfield's going. O'Brien slaps it down straight to Keys. Little 1-2 with McHenry. Heads up through the corridor. Thilthorpe stuck one arm out, lost it in the air and couldn't bring it in. Miller comes to assist though. Races through a couple. Heads into the 50. McAdam had eyes for the footy. Witherden didn't. Took him out in the air. And the whistle's paid for the push. Free kick to Shane McAdam. 35 out. Tight angle to the right.
Don't tend to get your big key forwards being your greatest metres gained player for the game, do you?
Not a good sign for the West Coast Eagles about how this quarter's been going. Darling's had a pretty big one though. 6 disposals, the 120 metres gained, 2 goals, 7 contested as well.
His work rate's been great. We've seen him take multiple marks up on the wing and then push back really quickly into forward 50 to provide an option.
Meanwhile, at the other end, Shane McAdam looks set for a big half as well. Trying to kick his 4th. It's across the goal face and spoilt through for a minor score. 39-point lead to the West Coast Eagles, to the Adelaide Crows, to the West Coast. Sorry, Eagles fans. 9-6-60, didn't want to give you any hope there. 3-3-21, 28-minute mark of the second quarter on Grandstand AFL. Aaron Bryans, Neil Cross, Ebony Marinoff, Talia Radan, and also Jordan McArdle from the West. George, more promising signs this quarter at least from Jack Darling.
Yeah, it's an improvement from the first, but they didn't have to do much to improve that. Jack Darling's been a real positive. His work rate's been good and he's taken a couple of nice contested marks as well.
So West Coast kick mark out of defence. Barris with the ball. He's on this broadcast side at half back. Down the line he goes. Off hands Hamill, slip free hand pass to Haitley, then over the top he went well to Keys. Inboard put Murphy under pressure, turned it over, Darling picked it up, off to Gaff. Hand pass forward to Cripps. Dodged around, waited, and then a blind turn as he gives it to Darling. And then Darling sends it down to half forward. Kelly went back, took the mark. Under pressure from Hamill. Kelly just outside attacking 50. Plays on, goes to the boundary line and then hooks it back. It's going to the goal square. Waterman almost took the mark. Crows quick to rush it through for the minor score. So late, 29.5. Late in this first half. West Coast being a little more competitive, and the margin is 38 points still in favour of Adelaide.
Dawson stays in the defensive goal square, kicks it short to Murray, gives him the hand back in the left back pocket. Up down the broadcast wing, outnumbered the Adelaide Crows. It clears the pack anyway to Walker at the back. Now Miller can race, put on the Jets and had to stop with Barris in his tail. Gave it off to Murphy. Then Murray, now central kick to Walker and through the logo. Plenty of space for Hamill. Races towards the 50. Sets it up to the top of the goal square. McAdam flies. Couldn't claim it. Spilt to Keys. Handball over the top. Set up too long for Fogarty. Shuey comes through. Gives it to Hearn. Flat kick out to Waterman just inside defensive 50. Scoreboard pocket. He'll lead back towards the behind line to Hearn again. And back to Waterman. A couple of stats for the defensive 6. But not a lot of territory. And that'll do us for a half of footy. West Coast Eagles finding a couple of majors in that quarter, but it wasn't enough to break the momentum of the Adelaide Crows, who are firing in this opening half. 9-6-60 to 3-4-22, a 38-point margin at the major break. Goals to Fogarty and McAdam, who have 3 apiece. Singles to Miller, Saligo and Walker. For West Coast, 2 to Darling, both coming in that term. And 1 to Andrew Gaff as well, which really kicked things off for the West Coast Eagles. Felt like they were starting to build off the back of back-to-back majors, and unfortunately they couldn't capitalise towards the back end of that second term. It's great to have your company on Grandstand AFL, ABC Radio, Sport Digital, triple header of footy, round 12 action. Obviously this game kicking things off to come, the Suns and North Melbourne in Darwin, Melbourne and Sydney tonight at the MCG, which should be a belter. Hopefully at least better than the one that we've got in front of us at the moment. The West Coast Eagles need to show something They're under 50 points at the moment. If the margin gets there, it's going to be a historic low in the AFL. The first time in history that a side has lost 8 straight games by 50 points or more. West Coast Eagles also will have an 8-game losing streak, which equals their club worst in 2001, and it'll be their worst start to a season ever. Currently tied with 1989 at 1-10. That season they won round 12 to go 2-10. So if they go 1-11, that's going to be an awful start for the visiting side, and it's certainly heading that way. Let's get the thoughts of our experts, Ebony Marinoff and Talia Radin.
Well, yeah, they've got a really, I guess, tight battle here, and it's challenging, and they'll head into the halftime huddle with, being 40-odd points down, and they're probably used to that over the past, 8 or so weeks all season. But it's for me, it's the midfield battle. I mean, we've seen Tim Kelly be able to get his hands on the footy, but it's the poise that he's missing, and we all know how classy Tim Kelly is. We actually need him, I guess, hitting targets, and as a forward that could be really frustrating because they actually did equalise the inside 50s that quarter. Crows still winning it with 16-12, but it's the ability to find targets and lower their eyes, and again they're just under pressure, and you can see their forwards not having confidence. There's been a couple of kicks inside 50 today, and they've just played on and missed, and it's that pressure, and when will that pressure stop? It's when they'll get a win. But I think they need to just be able to change that attitude coming into this second half. Otherwise, it is going to be another bloodbath like it has over the past 8 weeks.
Yeah, and you talk about poise, and particularly with Tim Kelly, and then you compare that to someone like Jordan Dawson and how brilliant he's been. And in that quarter alone, he had 8 disposals, 7 were kicks, going at 86% kicking efficiency. More incredible is his metres gained per quarter, and that was 305 metres per gained in a quarter, which is just phenomenal stats. So you can see a clear difference in how much a player like Dawson can deliver the footy and how important that is in a game like this. I mean, we've seen the game dry up a little bit. The weather's changed, and much tighter quarter, 4 goals 4 to 3 goals 3. So obviously much more of a closer contest, and we did see West Coast intensity lift, making it a little bit more difficult for Adelaide across the ground, but certainly that poise is so important.
The context of those metres gained, so Dawson had more than Kelly, Gaff and Shuey combined in the second quarter. Incredible.
And we speak about it, Aaron, like in previous weeks, how important the metres gain, and we've probably spoken a lot about Jordan Dawson, and that's why Adelaide Crows were so keen to get him, just because he has that ability to break lines. He plays as spare, he can win a contested ball, and he just executes, time after time. And, that we speak about Ben Keys a little bit with his disposal efficiency, and then you talk about Matt Crouch with his metres gain. It's those players that they're the game changers, and they're the difference. And unfortunately, both these teams in past weeks or in previous years, I mean, West Coast not so much, they haven't had those players that, really gain those metres gained and not just chip around the footy. It's really important in a game. And another thing is score involvements. I mean, Jack Darling was huge in that quarter, and, he has, for the quarter, I think he's got 6 or so score involvements for the game. And, Taylor Walker, probably a little bit quieter that quarter, but he's had 7. So, when you're getting your hands on the footy and gaining territory, as well as getting scores involved, you're going to, put a game together.
Jordan McArdle's with us as well, all the way from out west. George, what did you take out of the opening half?
They're just making the Eagles look old and slow, really, aren't they? The Crows, some of their runners have really impressed me. Of like the debutant Parnell, Hamill's certainly showed a bit, and up forward, the likes of McAdam and Miller are there. They're wreaking havoc up forward. So they've got 5 30-year-olds plus in their side today. The Eagles, Kennedy, Redden, Shuey, Cripps, and to go with McGovern as well, who was the laid out. So they're just looking that little bit old and slow at the moment. We talk a lot about their rebuild this year, but there's not a lot coming through in terms of young talent, unfortunately. Brady Hoffs showed a little bit today. I felt Callum Jamison's taken a couple of nice intercepts, but yeah, they're in a tough spot at the moment, the Eagles, and it doesn't look like there's a great deal of light at the end of the tunnel right now.
Putting you on the spot here, it's a rebuilding year for the West Coast Eagles. The season's done. Mid-season draft through the week, they take one player, and they had the option of taking a second and decided not to, in the hopes that one of their inactive long-term injury players could come back. What's the point? Is it not better to just pick a kid and hope that he could be another one that comes through with this next wave, rather than hope that a Tom Cole can come back when the season's all but gone?
I agree with you 100% there. They're obviously banking on Tom Cole to come back from his long-term injury, but Jake Florenko, what more of an audition do you need? He was one of their better players, and he was a top-up player with, probably 24 hours or 48 hours notice. So I thought that was pretty disappointing that they didn't give him a go. He's been plying his trade in the waffle for a long time, and he had 40-plus disposals against their waffle side only a few weeks back. So I was pretty disappointed that he didn't get an opportunity at the Eagles, and even someone like a Bailey Rogers as well, who won the Sandover medal last year. So, yeah, I thought it was a bit of a free hit miss there by the Eagles when they know what Tom Cole can do. Why bother, trying to rush him back and, maybe just wait it out and put another player, give someone else that opportunity. So, yeah, I think they missed a trick there, unfortunately.
Hasn't been a great season for the West Coast Eagles. Spot fires everywhere at the moment, and unfortunately in what could have been one of their few winnable games here at the Adelaide Oval, it certainly isn't going their way at the moment. The Crows leading by 38 points at half-time, 9-6-60 to 3-4-22. Plenty to come across the day on Grandstand AFL. The Suns in North and Melbourne and Sydney. Been great to have your company. Apologies again about the text line down across the country today, but if we do get it back on, feel free to let us know how you're feeling, Eagles and Crows fans. I know both seasons are currently in jeopardy, but at least Adelaide looks like they'll be heading into the bye with some sort of a win to take away from this afternoon. Join us very shortly for the second half. We'll see if we've got a contest on our hands or not. But for now, let's take the latest from the ABC Newsroom.
ABC News. Hello, I'm Tom Major. The Prime Minister has paid tribute to Queen Elizabeth in the nation's capital today as part of Platinum Jubilee celebrations. Chantel Alkuri reports.
Aspen Island on Canberra's Lake Burley Griffin, home to the National Carillon, has been renamed at a ceremony this morning, with the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese attending and unveiling the signage of the permanent tribute. The island is now called Queen Elizabeth II Island. The Prime Minister says it's a fitting salute to the Queen and her relationship with Australia, as well as her 16 visits.
Today we celebrate her long life and 70 years of service to Australia and the Commonwealth, including no less than 16 visits to our shores.
The ceremony included a 21-gun salute and a RAF flypast.
Police are investigating if an argument over a girl sparked the fatal stabbing of a teenager in Sydney's west. Officers say the 16-year-old boy died from a stab wound at a house in the Blacktown suburb of Ropes Crossing this morning. Detective Chief Inspector Paul Tickner says police are looking for several people involved in the incident.
We believe there was 3 offenders involved who fled from the scene. At the moment, we have a crime scene established down there. They're examining the scene and we'll be doing some searches of the surrounding area.
A former top advisor to Donald Trump has been charged with contempt of Congress for refusing to cooperate with an investigation into last year's riots at the US Capitol. The BBC's David Willis reports.
Peter Navarro made little secret of the fact that he helped coordinate an effort to overturn the certification of Joe Biden's election victory and was arrested at a Washington airport as he attempted to board a flight to Nashville. He's been charged with refusing to provide testimony or documents to the committee investigating the circumstances surrounding the attack on the US Capitol on January the 6th last year. He's due back in court in 2 weeks' time and, if convicted, faces the possibility of up to 2 years in jail or a large fine.
Mr Navarro has been open about his attempts to block certification of Joe Biden's win in the 2020 US presidential election. Before being taken into custody, he again claimed he's being denied due process.
They're essentially acting as judge, jury, and executioner. Their clear mission is to prevent Donald John Trump from running for president in 2024 and being elected. And people like me are in their way, and they're not coming for me and Trump, they're coming for you.
An attack on a road convoy in central Mali has killed 2 UN peacekeepers. They were guarding a civilian fuel convoy in the troubled West African nation when the attack took place. A security official says it's the 6th attack on UN personnel in Mali during the past 2 weeks. The governor of Luhansk province says Ukraine is recapturing large parts of the city of Severodonetsk, but needs long-range artillery to pursue a counter-offensive. Russia has previously conquered about 70% of the city, meaning control is now likely split evenly between the combatants. Serhiy Haidai says Ukraine needs more specific weapons to eliminate Russian positions and retake his province's cities.
Нам дійсно не вистачає далекобійної артилерії. We really lack long-range artillery. They simply shell our positions for hours, then throw a company of freshly mobilized Russian troops into battle. They die, and the Russians realize that the firing points are not suppressed, and they start firing again.
More than 100 live music events will be held across metropolitan Melbourne in the coming months as part of a Victorian government program. The live gigs, festivals and events begin this week, with musicians performing on St Kilda's foreshore. Creative Industries Minister Danny Pearson says there'll be plenty of other gigs across Melbourne's suburbs during the year.
We're going to see a rollout of live music events across the next 6 months, including Moreland, Yarra, Stonington, Hobsons Bay and my very own stomping ground, Moonee Valley. So this is just one step away from live in your lounge room.
And an American country music songwriter is seeking more than $27 million in damages over pop singer Mariah Carey's 1994 holiday hit, All I Want for Christmas Is You. Andy Stone is suing over a song he wrote, which was released 5 years previously. He's claiming copyright infringement over the song's title. With an estimated sales record of 16 million copies worldwide, the Carey track is the best-selling holiday song by a female artist and one of the best-selling physical singles in music history. You're up to date with the latest in ABC News. For more news at any time, you can download the ABC Listen app.
Down the leg side, oh, and it's a brilliant one-handed take.
A legend joins the immortals. Ash Barty is the Australian Open champion.
For your daily sports conversation, download the ABC Sport Daily podcast.
Ever heard of Helpers Hire?
The satisfaction, literally, I cannot define in words.
By volunteering our time, we feed our own positive mood and boost our overall physical and mental health. To celebrate the ABC's 90th year of connecting communities, we're asking you to take the 90 for 90 pledge. Just 90 minutes of your time to help a cause that you care about.
One person can make a difference.
For more information, go to our website, ABC Gives.
The 2022 AFL Premiership season.
Grandstand AFL. On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Murphy, no, overran it. Miller has it on the ground, just knocks it forward. Jamison tried to send it through. Fogarty got it. Walker got it, hand passed it off. Wait, will that be a goal? I think it is for Miller. And it is.
Duggan, then Hearn. Heads long towards the left forward pocket. Kennedy's out there and crunched the pack. Darling at the back fell to ground and nearly claimed it. He's been given it. Jack Darling's going to have to make this work. Opens the angle, runs around. It's a flat kick, but it's effective. Jack Darling gets the Eagles second.
Jamison sends it high, back inside attacking 50, slips over the back. Kennedy just knocks it further, then gathers it himself, then hand passes to Gaff, top of the square. Gaff turns and kicks a goal.
Tumbles its way towards half forward. Keys can pick it up, gives it to Laird. Heads to the top of the goal square, looking for Thilthorpe. Nearly claimed it. Hearn knocked it down. Coming through, McAdam can kick a goal from 15 out. He's got 3.
This is the 2022 AFL Premiership season.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Another week, another disappointing half for the West Coast Eagles, trailing by 38 points to the Adelaide Crows, who are headed into this game on a 5-game losing streak. They're heading towards rock bottom and historic lows, the West Coast Eagles. A lot of those will rattle off in the second half if the trend continues, but it'll be their worst start ever in an AFL season, an equal longest losing streak. They'd be, if it's a 50-point blowout, it could be the worst in AFL. Poor Ebony Marinov's trying to keep it in because it has been a tough game. I do feel for our team out west in Clint Wilden and Ben Cameron, who do have to deal with this every fortnight. It's they're a difficult team to call, the West Coast Eagles. They don't hit their targets, getting destroyed on the rebound as well. A couple of inside 50 entries, and unfortunately because it's been slippery, they haven't been able to capitalise either. So at the moment it's 9-6-60 playing 3-4-22. Both sides heading towards their bye, but the Adelaide Crows we're pretty happy if they can go in 4-8, considering they've been in a rough run of form after a hot start. There's not a lot of sport happening around the country. Usually we love to give you scores at half-time. Unfortunately, because we're in the midway point and in the latter end of a couple of seasons as well. In the NRL, there's just the one game today, which is tonight, the Sea Eagles and the Warriors. And in the Super Netball, things don't get underway until 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So all eyes are fixated on the first of our triple headers in the AFL today. The Suns and North Melbourne to come at Darwin. Melbourne and Sydney tonight at the MCG, all available to you on Grandstand AFL. If there's any game across the season you don't have access to in your market, just jump on the AFL app. There's a stream available for you. We do call every game across the 2022 Premiership season. Aaron Bryans, Neil Cross with you alongside Ebony Marinoff, Talia Radin and also Jordan McArdle joining us over from the West as well. Plenty to dissect, but it is a bit of the same old for the West Coast Eagles. The Adelaide Crows, though, things are starting to click a little bit. Ebbs, when they're getting a ton of pace in their movement and their handball chains, they're actually hitting targets now, which is creating some really good opportunities.
We talk about the pace and, you look at the likes of Rory Laird. He's had 17 disposals and only 6 kicks, and Ben Key's the same with 16 and 5 kicks. But it's that ability just to handball and get the likes of Brodie Smith and Jordan Dawson involved using their kicks, and they're actually playing. It's not more of a team game. It's probably the way Matty Nix wants them to be playing. It's that fast, exciting footy, and it's not just, the slow kind of footy that have been playing and waiting for, oppositions to just flood back and fill that defensive line that they do and they have been doing. And they're capable of it. We've spoken about it in the past couple of weeks. They have been close, and I think last week it was a winnable game for them at a stage down in Geelong, but they just haven't been able to finish. And this is going to be their challenge here today. I mean, we speak about West Coast being underwhelming, and they certainly have been, and they'll come out firing. We saw them fight back in the second quarter. They've probably been questioned, can they fight back for the second, third and fourth quarters? We'll see it throughout the day, but it's promising signs for Adelaide Crows fans, but they probably just haven't won enough games, and you can't keep speaking about, oh, that game was winnable. It's not going to cut it for the fans, and it's probably not going to cut it for the football club long term.
The part that's frustrated me the most over the past month, and I completely see why they've done it because of where they sit the scheme of things, and they're still rebuilding, is it doesn't feel like they've been playing their best 22. So Harry Schomburg's the sub today. He's missed out on a month of footy after a pretty decent start. The last game he played, he had 22 touches and over 20 pressure acts, but just ended up omitted out of the side. There was a couple of players like that across the season. Matt Crouch, who was dominating in the SANFL, couldn't get back in. A couple of guys getting a go, maybe to see what they can provide. It hasn't felt like they've had their best team on the park, and it may have cost them a couple of those really close games against the better teams.
And you speak about that. They've played, nearly their whole list, but 17 AFL listed have been dropped this year, and that's unheard of. And that's unheard of, when you're at the bottom of the ladder. We've seen West Coast, been hit with COVID, and they've had players go out but come straight back in. But with the Adelaide Footy Club, they've had 17 players be dropped, and that to me, and I'm sure to the outside world, shows a lot of uncertainty what their best 22 is. And will we find out this year? Probably not. And that rattles the team because they don't have continuity amongst their lines. It's as a player, I know how frustrating it is to have players come in that don't know their roles, and you kind of have to stay with them because that's footy and injuries happen and people lose touch and form. But yeah, it really muddles, I guess, the gelling of the team on game day.
Do you like it, Talia, that they've kind of bitten the bullet and are just trying to see what everyone has to offer?
I think so. I think another example of another player that I'd love to see out there today is Braden Cook, and he's one I think was a little bit unlucky and probably on the wrong side of some of those changes that were made. And you'd love to see someone like him get a continued run at games, because when he has played, he's shown some real poise and craft, and perhaps something that we don't have across the board. He's got that point of difference, I think, that other players might not have. So it would be great to see some of those players get that extended run going forward.
Right on cue, because Jackson Haitley, known as a common inside midfielder, is going to start on the wing, and that's why Braden Cook's found himself out of the team, because they've brought Jake Saligo in, who I highly rate as a footballer, and he's going to be an absolute player for the footy club. But you're playing someone like Jackson Haitley, who's a well-known, a very good contested ball winner, playing on the wing, and it keeps someone like Braden Cook outside the team.
38-point lead to the Adelaide Crows. The second half underway on Grandstand AFL. Bailey Williams wins it down straight towards West. Couldn't get it out, caught in the tackle. We'll get a reset inside the square. Rain somehow staying away after bucketing down in the pre-game. West again tries to charge his way through in his court. Saligo gets him holding the ball. True centre wing, just inside the broadcast wing. He'll head back inside the square to Dawson at half-back.
Dawson just backs up outside the centre square, flares it wide, finds Duday. Oh, he dropped what he should have taken. It was a chest mark. He handballed then to Haitley forward. He went back to Parnell. steadied himself. Wobbly old kick off the left foot, turned over. No, West dropped the mark. Now it's picked up by Petrevski-Seton. He was taken in a tackle, and it'll be a free kick to Walker, who grabbed him. So somehow the Crows have eventually turned the ball over. And Walker goes centrally with his kick. Strong mark taken. Going back under a lot of pressure there, Brody Smith, or going forward under a lot of pressure, Brody Smith. So he's standing outside 50, but backs up inside the centre square. Arcs around to the right foot. Stabs inside 50. Lead by Thilthorpe. Falls over the back. Barris down low takes a chest mark.
Just a bit too hot on the entry there. Thilthorpe hasn't had a great run of games either after a really interrupted lead-in. Had a knee injury, then COVID after being omitted from the side in round 2. Since then, returning to the team, actually hasn't had a goal. So goalless last week and not on the board yet this afternoon. The Eagles, meanwhile, head to the eastern side. Nelson with a kick on the 45, hits Petrevski-Seton behind centre wing. Thought about going inside to Kelly, doesn't use him in the end and sends it down the line. Flat kick too short for Gaff, who stuck a hand out, did enough to paddle it through Kennedy. Waiting at the back was Smith. 1-2 for the Crows with Crouch. Kick around the body inside, a bit too wide for Laird. Petrevski-Seton can gather, gives it off to Waterman. Then Shuey busting through West, heads back to Waterman in the square. Nelson out to the boundary line to Gaff. Darts inside around Millerer. On the left, he'll head long into the scoreboard pocket. Darling trying to get a run. It was too wide for him. And offhand, it trickles through for a minor score on the right-hand side. The West Coast Eagles first on the board in the third term. 3-5-23. The Adelaide Crows 9-6-60, 2.5 played.
So it's Smith brings it in. Long kick outside 50, finds Laird. Immediately the hand pass to Crouch, who gave it forward to Keys, knew he was under pressure. Run down. Free kick to Gaff inside the centre squares on this broadcast side of the ground. Gaff backs up. Looks to his left, looks to his right. Now he's got running for him Witherden. Witherden goes long with his kick. 25 from goal. O'Brien just palmed the ball down. Haitley was there, went back with a hand pass to the left foot, the solid left foot of Jordan Dawson, and then he finds Walker with his kick outside defensive 50. Walker's at half back, eastern side of the Adelaide Oval. Scoreboard still looking good for Adelaide by 37 points.
Just the one goal so far for Tex, but 7 score involvements. Short kick, hits up Crouch, still at left half back. He'll retreat to defensive 50, much to the groans of the crowd. Hits Duday, he'll look to switch to Murphy. Just no pressure at the moment. Up to half-back, uncontested, mark to Brody Smith. Hands it off to Dawson running by. Heads up through the western side, McAdams leading out, sliding in on his knees. Nice little bounce off the deck as he flies into the footy. Takes the mark, centre wing in front of the benches. Kicks inside to Dawson on the logo. A couple of touches early in the third for Jordan Dawson. The quiet opening quarter. Now is to be disposal number 4. Heads up to right half forward. McAdam with a fly. Uncontested. Claims it in front of the pack. Wastes little time giving it to Keys. Heads towards the top of the goal square. Didn't favour Walker, who hadn't really started his lead. And Hearn stood in the hole and cut it off for the Eagles.
Hearn now breaks away, goes towards the eastern corridor to Gaff. Gaff chips it, looking for West. Just inside the centre square, taken by West out there on the eastern side. He finds Kennedy on the lead, on the logo, or just a little bit wider than that. On the logo, though, is Nelson, and he chips inside to the big half-back. Nelson called to play on now. And he looks down towards half-forward, wide against the boundary line. Witherden with the mark. So he looks and waits. Former Brisbane Lion. Back he goes at 45, finds Hearn. Former South Australian. Hearn to Duggan. Inside the centre square, they come across to this broadcast side. Shuey by himself. It was a kick that went 50 metres, and then Shuey off the left foot kicks it out on the full. All that for naught. That is the problem for West Coast this season.
How many out on the fulls? Is there a stat for that and drop marks today? Because
I think it's 4 out on the full. 2 to Duggan, 1 out there. I can't remember who that was, and then that one then.
We'll have to check on the Champion Data laptop. There's a million stats on here. I'm sure we can find it somewhere.
We're not very skinny like Cardinia Park out here at Adelaide Oval.
Meanwhile, the Crows look to switch and cough it up. Awful kick coming out of defensive 50. Cut off by Gaff, got it back to Nelson. Wide kick intended for Kennedy was touched and carries over the boundary line in front of the scoreboard. It'll be tossed back into play inside 50, 35 out. Right forward pocket, northern end. West Coast Eagles trailing by 37 points. Game high margin was 44. 19-minute mark of the second. Toss back into play. O'Brien in front position, slapped it down. Shuey was there. Got a handball back to Darling. Fumbled, then caught in the tackle, lost it. Play on. Murray comes through. In the tackle, got a big kick away. Just trying to get some territory. Paris lost it in the air. Falconed off him and then took the mark. Did well. Cross half back the Eagles go. Foley marks short to Redden. He's at left half back on the western side. Waterman provides an option near the boundary line. He won't use him. Instead heads dangerously across half back. Kick was too short for Duggan. He's under pressure from Tex. Gives it off though to Foley. Down the line. West sat waiting for the ball. Laird came out to cut it off. Brought it to ground, then became the tackler on West, who slid in. Umpires circling, holding the ball. Free kick to the Crows in the middle. He'll go the way of Rory Laird.
Laird backs up. Looks to his right. No options. He's just inside the centre square on the eastern side. Goes down to half forward. Really not meant for anybody, that kick. It found grass in the end. Kelly picked it up. Tackled straight away by Rowe, but he got it away, and now it's out on the full. He pulled his kick off, and he pulled it so it went about 5 metres to his right, out on the full. Boy, West Coast, they have a lot of problems to deal with this season, and one of them is lack of skill this afternoon. Haitley with a free kick.
At left half forward, opens the angle, heads into the left forward pocket in the pack. Walker nearly claimed it. Rowe was front and square, caught one high. Free kick, 15 out from goal, tight angle to the left. I think that was pretty clear there, Talia.
I think so. I think what was really impressive before that was Riley Thilthorpe really attempting to take the footy at the highest point and bringing it to ground for his smalls. So, the more that Riley can continue to do that and be a real presence up forward, it will help out our small forwards like Rowe, McAdam, Murphy.
7-6 for the year, James Rowe. In and out of the side. Wouldn't mind a major. Opens the angle and shanks it across the face. So wide it's nearly out on the full. Just in for a minor score in the end. Back to the halftime margin of 38 points. 9-7-61 plays 3-5-23. 8.5 played in the third on Grandstand AFL. Aaron Bryans, Neil Cross, Ebony Marinoff, Talia Radin and Jordan McArdle with you.
Witherden brings the ball in short into the right back pocket. Edwards with the mark. Oh, he went very short with his kick. The umpire said, no, that's a mark to Witherden. Murphy looked up and questioned it. Didn't raise his arm, so no 50. Witherden goes long down the line. And a strong mark taken there by Hoff. Hopefully his kick's better than his last one. So Hoff backs up. Just takes his time. Taken from Peel Thunder with pick 31 last season. Or last draft, I should say. Down to centre wing he goes. Adelaide on the ground. Haitley flicked it up. Brodie Smith picked it up and he tried to bust through the tackle with no success. Brought to ground solidly by Clark. We get a ball up close to the boundary line. Only about 20,000 in the house. They're getting a little bit anxious now about what Adelaide showed in the first half, and they expected a continuation that hasn't come thus far in the second half. 9.5 minutes into the third term. Adelaide still comfortable by 38 points.
Doesn't look as slippery out there, Crossy, after a wet start. Toss back into play. O'Brien in front position against Jamison, won it down. Trying to bust through. McAdams wrapped up by Clark. Ball hits the ground on the eastern side, holding the ball. Free kick goes West Coast way. Clark has it just forward of right half back. Bangs it long up towards Darling. He's got Murray all over him. No whistle. Couldn't take the mark. Keys was there waiting. Gives it to Laird. Back to Smith. Around the body for Adelaide down the line. Fogarty flew through his hands. Waiting at the back, Clark. Uses Edwards. West Coast try again to get to right half forward. Again, Adelaide have numbers though. And Brodie Smith cuts it off in front of Darling.
Smith can look centrally. He had a couple of players available briefly, but now he bites off the kick and he finds the running hinge, takes it runs through the centre square about halfway and then sends it high to half forward with it and missed the ball as he tried to knock it away. Boundary umpire's gone down as the ball, he slid down and he might have hurt himself. He has done an ankle, I think. As the ball went across the line, we'll get a throw in. Boundary umpire limps across, picks it up, hands it over to his counterpart, and there'll be a throw in. All that taking place 35 metres around from the goal face for Adelaide.
Gee.
I know I shouldn't be laughing.
Doesn't look like a very good injury either. He's grabbing at the right knee. Kelly, meanwhile, tries to bust through off the ruck contest. He's caught holding the ball. Free kick to Adelaide's Rory Laird. 45 out, 45-degree angle to the left. Hands it off quickly. Long bomb from 50 on the paint. That is an absolute rout. Taylor Walker with an outrageous finish. Adelaide gets some momentum in the third. Back up to a 44-point lead. 10-7-67 the Eagles, 3-5-23, 12 played on Grandstand AFL. Liz Walsh downstairs.
Just as a few drops of rain have started up again, Will Hamill has come to the bench. He still looks uncomfortable on his right ankle after hurting it in the first quarter. Keep an eye on him this quarter.
Well, that's just Rory Laird's effort, and he's had 8 tackles for the game. He's had 22 disposals and 6 score involvements and 5 inside 50s. For me, I reckon Rory Laird's probably one of the most underrated midfielders in the comp, and his ability to, I guess, win the footy and accumulate, but it's his tackle pressure and his pressure points that he continues to do week in, week out, and that's probably why he's won a couple of best and fairest at the footy club. But he's had 4 tackles this quarter alone, and that was just a lovely finish from Taylor Walker again. Rory Laird knowing his limitations and hands it off to someone who can finish and roast them from 50.
Laird averaging 32 possessions a game this season. Ball back in the middle. Adelaide through Berry. Gave it off to Crouch. Running behind or coming from behind him was Hamill. His left foot kick inside forward 50. Barris got across. Knocked it towards the boundary line. Fogarty kept it in. Hand pass to Walker. Hard against the left pocket. And he centred it up and Keys couldn't take it. Shuey sweeps in for West Coast. Clears it away. Finds Gaff outside defensive 50.
So Andrew Gaff. Disposal 21 coming up, the best for the Eagles so far in the afternoon. Called to play on, heads up the eastern side. Through centre wing, he's looking for Kennedy and a couple all over him. Spills down, Hinge, got a handball out to Crouch. Now Haitley and then Hamill. Nice little chain across the boundary line, inside 50 for Adelaide. Walker's outnumbered. Barris brought it to ground, waiting at the back. Witherden gets it out wide, tapped down by Edwards to Hearn. Wormburner along the deck finds its way all the way past right half back, and Clark will carry it over just behind centre wing for the West Coast Eagles, trailing by 44 points, 10-7-67 to 3-5-23.
The ball to come back into play. West Coast last week absolutely thumped in the second half. They get it down to half forward now. Adelaide with the answers again. Darling going against Murray as a shorter man, but he had the best of that. So 15 goals to 4 in the second half last week. West Coast conceding against the Western Bulldogs. The ball comes back into play. Thilthorpe knocks it down. Haitley slips a hand past to McHenry in close. Berry then over spectacularly over the top to Haitley. Then knocked forward. And Adelaide just rushing it forward. Got it to Walker on centre wing. He was clean with the hands. Outside he goes to Crouch towards half forward. And then he pulls his left foot back centrally. It's punched off the pack. Clean gather by Millerer. And his left foot kick was marked in the goal square defensively by Brady Hoff for West Coast.
So Hoff, 23 touches last week. Career high for him, I should say. Plays on out of the defensive goal square. Heads towards right half back. Bailey Williams lost it in the air. Spills down to Clark. Got it out to Kelly. Lost it in the tackle. Haitley now dives on top of Williams, who's making no effort to get it out. Umpire gives him the benefit of the doubt. Ball up to come. Left half forward for the Crows. So Gaff with 21. Kelly with 20. Haitley led with 22 for Adelaide. Crouch with 20 there as well. Ball up didn't gain any territory. Another quick tackle laid. This time Berry. Got Greg Clark. Let's try again as the rain sets in at the Adelaide Oval. Tap down to Samberry, wrapped up by Williams. Trickles out to Nelson for the Eagles. Gives it to Gaff around the body. Up to centre wing through the hands of Kennedy. Hinge at the back, trying to paddle it to his advantage, and West wraps him up with a heavy tackle. Ball will roll over the boundary line to be tossed back into play out on the eastern side. Bit of the spark going out of this game. Not that there really was much in the opening half, but with the weather and the poor skill, it's getting difficult for the visitors, Crossy.
Very difficult. West Coast came here with a record that was imposing against Adelaide. Won 7 of their past 8. But really, the ball slipped out of their hands very early on. Fogarty was brilliant to bury him. Might have been a throw. Umpire's going to bring it back here. At half forward, he sort of half volleyed the ball, rolled and gave a quick give. And the umpire said it was a throw. Shannon Hearn to take the free kick. Hearn, of course, premiership player with West Coast, but 2 times a premiership player before he was drafted at 18 years old. In the SANFL, he was 2 times a premiership player with Central District. Imposing record. He started very young and he's continued on, and now he's very old, I guess you'd say, in football terms.
Not a nice way of putting it, Crossy. Very old. His kick down the line went off hands. Boundary throw in now underway. Williams against Thilthorpe. The Eagle wins it down straight to Shuey. Caught immediately in the tackle from Berry. Shrugged the head. No free kick. Crouch gets it out to Haitley. Heads towards the 50. Bit long for Walker. Barris at the back couldn't pick it up and had to apply the tackle on Fogarty. Crunched him. Trickles out though to Tex. From 40, he snaps on the right. Too much arc on it and out on the full. Free kick to the Eagles, left back pocket, right in front of the Riverbank stand. And trailing by 44 points, 10-7-67 to 3-5-23. Just the 1 goal in this third quarter, the way of Taylor Walker, who has 2 for the afternoon. The Eagles exit defensive 50 off hands. Ben Keys can send it back where it came from. Spiral punt. Walker flies, can't bring it down. Spilled down, and quick tackle laid. Luke Foley at the bottom of the pack. Ball up to come, 30 out from the Crows' goal.
In come the ruckman. Walker comes out of the contest. Hand pass off. Saligo was able to have a clean shot at goal, but he couldn't hook it across his body far enough. Well, he did try and straighten, but only succeeded in scoring the minor one, the behind. So 18 minutes into the third quarter, starting to get lackluster. Adelaide 10 goals 8, West Coast 3 goals 5.
The Eagles have turned over outside defensive 50. Parnell at the back, nice little kick. Hits another target in McHenry. It's been great on debut, Parnell, and now McHenry's kick inside 50 was looking for Walker. Was leading out, but Williams jumped from the side into the hole. Cuts it off, hits Redden now at left half back.
That's happened a couple of times today because West Coast have been playing a spare. Adelaide Crows are trying to be too cute, going inside 50, and it's letting that spare actually have the ability to cut it off.
Down the line, Darling's again beaten by Hinge, but Gaffs received the free kick. Put Hamill in the tackle, who didn't dispose of it cleanly. And now goes short to Nelson on the logo. Nelson really wanted to go back. Finally heads forward instead for the Eagles. Packer waits outside the 50. Waterman flew, couldn't clunk it. Saligo front and square. Back to Hinge. Centres his kick nicely across defensive 50. Hits Matt Crouch. He led towards the scoreboard pocket. Spots Parnell. Another mark kick for the debutant. Now Haitley can go. Bit too slow off his mark. West tracks him down, so he'll go back to Parnell. Over the top to Duday. Crows at left half back, and Duday will centre his kick to Keys.
Keys takes it, goes straight across the ground. So Hinge just chips it forward. Crouch has moved up the ground, so he backs up, having taken that mark. Calls for separation for Murray, and that's what he gets. So Murray with a little lead and a little 20-metre pass, and he backs up. He's at right half back. Taking their time, the Crows, possessing the ball. Down the line with the kick now, Murray. O'Brien's there. It fell over the back. Fogarty read it well. Hand pass over his head finds McHenry, who's slammed across the boundary line. Good tackle made by big Bailey Williams there. 100 kilograms up against considerably smaller McHenry, just the 74 Ks.
45-point lead to the home side. Aaron Bryans, Neil Cross, Talia Radin, Ebony Marinoff, Jordan McArdle with you. Not a lot to talk about in this quarter. Wet weather, messy, low-scoring footy. Off the ruck contest, though, McHenry bursts away, threw it on the boot. Right across the goal face, takes a tumble. And over the boundary line, it'll be tossed back into play, left forward pocket. Ebbs, Tales, anything out of this quarter so far?
Well, it's certainly lost its spark that might have been there in the first quarter when Adelaide Crows piled on the goals, but West Coast just have seemed to flooded, Crows inside 50, and it's really hard to, I guess, hit a target, and it feels like a little bit like rugby because there's so many players at the contest.
From the boundary throw in, Walker shoved Williams out, tried to have a shot on goal and sprayed it out on the foot. Anything impressing you, Talia, out there?
I'm really liking the fact that both Fogarty and Walker are having a genuine influence on the game. I think there's been a bit of talk and conjecture maybe about both of them not being able to play well together at the same time, and maybe that they're too similar of a player, but today we're really seeing both of them stamp their authority on the game, and especially with Fogarty, we're seeing him really demanding the footy, which has been really impressive, and they've combined for 5 goals collectively so far, which is great.
Nothing much happening in the football, as it turns out. Ball's over the boundary line, inside forward 50 again for Adelaide. Riley O'Brien took a nice mark, the 2020 Best and Fairest winner at the Crows. He's had a fair old afternoon. Walker in the ruck contest this time. Shuey comes through, boots it outside defensive 50. Parnell picks it up for Adelaide, the debutant, back inside 50 off his left foot. Off hands towards the boundary line, and Edwards runs it across for West Coast, about 25 around from the goals the Adelaide Crows are attacking at the River Torrens end of the Adelaide Oval. And in this quarter, it's been 1-2 for Adelaide to a single behind from West Coast, who kicked 3 goals in the second quarter, the only 3 they have on the board this afternoon.
Toss back in. Bailey Williams got a hand to it. Keys at the back, couldn't get a disposal away. Sliding in Redden and Millerer. Neither can wrench it out. Finally, Shuey gets boot to ball. Just bangs it on the boot up towards the corridor. Kennedy on the bounce. Lost it. Went straight through to Sam Berry. He's wrapped up by Waterman. Lost it in the tackle. Free kick West Coast. Maybe, just maybe, they can get one here if they hurry. There's not a lot of Crows players sitting back, but Waterman does not want to take the game on. Played on and kicked it straight into Walker, who came across from the side. Now Waterman off the deck, gave it straight to Keys. Hands it off to Murphy. Oh, this would be a wondrous rebound. Murphy's kick is across the face. Minor score to the right-hand side. Jake Waterman's had an absolute mare in the wet. He's the Waterman. Can't get it done at the Adelaide Oval.
That's probably Lockie Murphy's knock, is his ability to, I guess, his set shots aren't great, but his finishing is usually pretty good around the body. But there's just a bit chaos footy at the moment, and neither team can, high tackle here with Tom Doedee around the neck of...
Round Cripps, and he didn't miss him at all. Cripps was low down. Now Doedee can't get up. Cripps can, and he plays on. He goes to the 50 and then kicks it long to the top of the goal square. Ball comes down to Darling, releases a hand pass out for Gaff. He then goes to Redden, pushes off one, and off the left foot, a snap through for the West Coast's 3rd of the afternoon, or 4th of the afternoon. So, Redden, former Brisbane Lion who started his life in football here in Adelaide, kicks a goal for West Coast, 4-5-29. Adelaide 10-9-69. So still a 40-point advantage for the Crows as we cross over 24 minutes in this third quarter. Down to Liz Walsh on the boundary.
Yeah, meanwhile, the rain is really starting to set in here. It is absolutely soggy everywhere you look.
George, a little bit of hope for the West Coast Eagles.
Maybe to avoid a 50-plus point defeat, but yeah, I think that's about the only thing they can hope for right now, especially in a pretty low-scoring game as well. So yeah, I don't think they're going to avoid defeat on this one.
Ball up in the middle. It's the Crows by 40. O'Brien wins it down. Laird busts through, hands it off to Crouch, gets it back. Now out wide to Berry. Long kick heading towards the left forward pocket. Waiting there is Fogarty. Got rid of Edwards, couldn't claim it though. Hearn coming through, crunched the ball. McAdam slides in and caught one high. Shannon Hearn tried to wrap him up, but McAdam was already on his knees. Free kick going the way of the 27-year-old Crow. He's had a day out so far in the wet. This will be number 4 if he can convert. Poor Shannon Hearn, just trying to fix a leaking boat at the moment. There's only so much you can do when the inside 50 counts nearly double against you. 51-24. Shane McAdam. He's only been goalless in 1 of the 7 games he's played this season. From 45 on the right, it's starting left, not coming back. Inaccuracy plaguing this third term, a goal apiece either side, multiple behinds. It's Adelaide by 41 points, 10-10-70 place, 4-5-29 time on in the third on Grandstand AFL.
Might have spoken too early in the opening quarter about Adelaide's improved accuracy. So Gaff trying to run away with the ball is tackled out there on the eastern half-back flank for West Coast. Ball forced across the line. So we get a throw in. 26 minutes gone now. Adelaide by 41 points. West Coast, sad story this season. They've used their entire list and then some. 43 players have gone through and none of them have played every game. So they worked it back through their hands. Shuey gave it back. Now Adelaide turn it over. It came to Crouch inside 50. He hits the chest of Edwards. Trouble is he's an Eagles defender. So Edwards will go back and take the kick. 25 from goal out there in the right back pocket.
Dangerous exit. Somehow hit Kelly in a pack. Now handball off to Redden. Through centre wing he goes. Back with the flight. Smith cut it off but couldn't claim it. Waterman just paddles it up towards right half forward. Kennedy head over the footy. Wrenches it out. Gives it to Cripps who can go. Plenty of real estate. Arches the back through the paint of 50. Heads long towards goal. Best play of the day for the West Coast Eagles. Great finish from the arc. Jamie Cripps. They've got 5 for the afternoon. 35-point deficit. Adelaide 10-10-70. West Coast 5-5-35. 27 played in the third on Grandstand AFL. Your experts, Ebony Marinoff and Talia Radan.
Really clever there by Cripps. He just held his space and held his positioning out of that contest, and he got the reward. Really clever, underrated player, Cripps. One of those real great third tall options that really can play tall or small, and that was really well executed.
Jamie Cripps out of East Fremantle. And then to St Kilda through the draft process. 16 games with the Saints before West Coast took him back in 2012. Last time these two sides met, he kicked 5 goals. So out of the middle, Adelaide take it forward. Berry socketed it to Murphy, gave it back to Berry, and then to the left foot of on the turn Rowe, but without success. Siren beat him in the end. 3/4 time at the Adelaide Oval on Grandstand AFL. It's Adelaide 10-10-70, West Coast 5-5-35.
The Crows have double the inside 50s and double the margin as well. Goals to McAdam and Fogarty with 3 each. 2 to Walker, singles to Saligo and Millerer for West Coast. Just the 1 goal that quarter through Jack Redden. Another single to Andrew Gaff and 2 to Jack Darling for the game. West Coast trying to hang on and avoid history. A 50-point or more blowout will certainly not do them any wonders as they head towards rock bottom and their worst start ever to an AFL season. It's the Crows by 35 points on ABC Radio and Sport Digital. This is Grandstand AFL.
For laughter, tears, and a look back through the years.
How about this for our first date?
Join Julia Zamiro for one final trip down memory lane.
This is like where I grew up.
With Ray Martin, Marsha Hines, and Stephen Page.
I started choreographing my first work here.
Plus the most emotional homecoming yet, her very own home delivery.
I would have loved to walk through here with him.
The final season of Julia Zamiro's Home Delivery.
Wow.
Starts Sunday, June 19 on ABC TV and ABC iView.
The 2022 AFL Premiership season.
Grandstand AFL. On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Free kick to Adelaide's Rory Laird. 45 out, 45-degree angle to the left. Hands it off quickly. Long bomb from 50 on the paint. That is an absolute rout. Taylor Walker with an outrageous finish.
Duday can't get up, Cripps can, and he plays on. He goes to the 50 and then kicks it long to the top of the goal square. Ball comes down to Darling, releases a hand pass out for Gaff. He then goes to Redden, pushes off one, and off the left foot, a snap through for the West Coast's 4th of the afternoon.
Smith cut it off but couldn't claim it. Waterman just paddles it up towards right half forward. Kennedy head over the footy, wrenches it out. Gives it to Cripps who can go. Plenty of real estate. Arches the back through the paint of 50. Heads long towards goal. Best play of the day for the West Coast Eagles. Great finish from the arc, Jamie Cripps.
This is the 2022 AFL Premiership season.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Not the greatest start to the triple header of footy on Grandstand AFL. Wet weather at the Adelaide Oval. It's bucketing down now after it looked like we may be able to escape some heavy weather. And the Adelaide Crows are pushed out to a 35-point lead over the West Coast Eagles, who are battling to avoid history, but looks like they will finish the round 1 and 11, which will be their worst start ever. Both sides heading into the bye. The Crows would love to be 4 and 8 heading into there. Aaron Bryans, Neil Cross, Ebony Marinoff, Talia Radin and Jordan McCarter with you. Liz Walsh downstairs braving the weather as well. Couple of games to come, as I touched on. Hopefully they're better than this one. The Suns and North Melbourne in Darwin, Melbourne and Sydney at the MCG. That Suns game shaping up to be quite a big one in the context of the season, because they've got a fairly good run from here, Gold Coast. They're pushing for their first ever finals campaign. They'd love to kick off the charge at the latter end of the season by knocking off North Melbourne this afternoon. To preview it for us on Grandstand AFL, Quinton Hale is standing by. Q.
Well, g'day, Aaron. You're talking about the moisture coming from the skies. Well, it's seeping out of the pores of everyone here in Darwin, and I regularly get to northern parts of Queensland to cover football during the footy season, but it's hot by any standard. Even the locals are cracking a bit of a sweat here. It's 32 degrees at the moment. I see the Kangaroos warming up, taking on Gold Coast. As you mentioned, the Suns fresh off a terrific victory here last week over Hawthorn by 67 points. The Kangas season, there's been plenty spoken about it. They're 1 and 10, but they do get Ben Mackay back in defence today from a knee injury, so that's one positive for them, even though Cam Zurhaar goes out with injury. And for the Gold Coast Suns, one of the stories of their improved showing this season has been the twin towers down front of Levi Casbolt and Mobia Chol. Well, Casbolt's not playing. He's got a calf injury, and we see the interesting career of Sam Day take another turn. Of course, had that horrid hip dislocation back in 2017. Looked like he was getting back to his consistent best in 2020 when he played the whole 17 games in that COVID season, but knee and foot injuries got him last year. He only played the 6 games. He's played 7 games in the VFL, Sam Day, one of the original Suns, and is back in for Gold Coast, who, as you mentioned, are 5 and 6, and in their final 11 games, or going into the round, they play only 3 teams that are currently inside the top 8. So a real opportunity for Gold Coast to square their ledger at 6 and 6 ahead of next week's bye, while the Kangas, of course, have made the long trip. They've still got another game before they have their break. They play Greater Western Sydney next week before a round 14 bye. But it's melting here. It really is, from Carrara to Marara for the Suns for a second week, and North up here. We called a game where these two teams played in Cairns in teeming rain a couple of years ago. It's exact opposite to that. It's hot, track fast, and we're going to be melting for twilight footy.
Looking forward to it, Q. I'll trade places, to be honest, with the weather we've got here.
It sounds all right, doesn't it, really?
Crows by 35. Ebony Marinoff, Talia Radin. What are you hoping to see from West Coast in this final term? The game's gone. What do you want from them?
Just greater intensity at the footy. I think, in these sorts of conditions, you're sort of after 2 things. You're after clean hands, and particularly below the knees, and you're also after high intensity at the contest. And they're probably the 2 flaws in West Coast game today if we look at it as a whole. So, if they're able to tidy that up, they might be able to work their way into the game. But to Adelaide's credit, they've been far cleaner and far better as well with their pressure up at the ball carrier.
10-10-70 plays 5-5-35. Final term underway at the Adelaide Oval. Williams wins it down for the Eagles, bounces past Shuey, who was held. Free kick going his way in the centre square. Looks for some options, the skipper out wide, but no one's running by, so he'll go long up towards the 50. Plenty of players waiting there. Back with the fight. Haitley collides with Waterman. Both players only had eyes for the footy. Waterman flew through the air, claimed the mark. Haitley collided with his knees, took him out of the air. He's a bit slow to his feet as Waterman backs up on the mark. Trainers coming out to assist Jackson Haitley, who caught nothing but stomach and knees and legs of Jake Waterman.
Forearm got him, I think.
Forearm
on the replay actually got him across the temple. So I think this might be a concussion case. He's on one knee at the moment, probably doing a little bit of a prayer that he's okay too.
Well, the Adelaide trainer had a fist up, so maybe that's a concussion test symbol. I'm not sure. I haven't seen that before, or maybe the fist's good to go.
He doesn't want to come off, Jackson Haitley, so he'll stay out there in the end. Meanwhile, Jake Waterman has a shot, slight angle to the right. Man on the marks, 45 out. Long skip, run up on the paint of 50, goes bang. Plenty of power, but no accuracy. Out on the full. Tail of the day for West Coast. No score, trailing by 35 at the start of the 4th.
Well, the good news is for West Coast, they won the third quarter, just the 8th quarter of football they've won this season. So, meanwhile, Adelaide out of defence long, and pack mark taken by Edwards for West Coast. He backs up over the boundary line, right half forward, kicks it high, inside forward 50, 25 from goal. Kennedy was in there. Dawson picked it up for Adelaide, immediately surrounded. Kennedy forces the ball up for West Coast. So 25 from the goal face, slightly to the right. West Coast attacking that River Torrens end of the ground, trying to surge forward. There's Haitley taken down, and umpire comes in, says, give it to me.
Starts at the start of the fourth. Gaff with 25, so does Haitley, Laird, Crouch. Keys has 24. Off the ruck contest at the back, Kelly just trying to force it forward, but the Crows have numbers. Smith's kick is smothered by Redden. Goes again. Close to the boundary line. Haitley's happy to walk it over in the tackle from West. 30 out from goal. Boundary throw-in to come in front of the Riverbank stand. Tough game this afternoon. Plenty of wet weather before bounce down. Clean half, and now it's back, unfortunately. So it's really been slippery out there all day. O'Brien knocks it down straight to Jamie Cripps. He's tackled by a couple. Ball up to come 40 out. Slight angle to the right for the West Coast Eagles. Williams now in front position, but O'Brien beats him straight down to Petrevski-Seaton. Weaving out of traffic, gets a handball out to Cripps, had a tackler in Keys, he dragged him all the way inside 50, gave it off to Redden, kick inside to Williams, couldn't claim it with one hand. Petrevski-Seaton though marches through and finishes from 25. That's what West Coast Eagles fans wanted to see. They get the first of the final quarter. Put a little bit of hope into this game with a 29-point margin. 10-10-70, plays 6-5-41. 3.5 played in quarter 4 on Grandstand AFL. Your experts, Ebony Marinoff and Talia Radin.
Well, that was Sam Prescrici just staying in the contest. He actually was in the contest prior to that, and Paddy Parnell was actually his opposition, and he just kept driving his legs as good small forwards do, and he got into the contest again, and a lovely finish. And his form hasn't been, up to his standard. It's been quite underwhelming. So hopefully Eagles fans can see a bit more from him in the last quarter.
Just a murmur of discontent around the crowd as Adelaide concedes a centre break again. Shuey will get a free kick in the back from Laird. Shuey goes down to half forward with his kick. Out comes Darling, crashes the back, comes forward to Cripps, to Gaff, and then to Redden. And then he goes by hand back to Nelson, who kicks the ball out on the full. Yes, he does. It's off the side of the boot.
Murray and Hamill down after that contest. Let's head downstairs to Liz Walsh.
Yeah, it looks like West Coast Patrick Naish, the medical sub, is about to be subbed into the game.
Meanwhile, inside 50, centering kick nearly hit Sam Petrevski-Seaton. Couldn't gather in the air, lost it. Murray with the quick clearance. Miller went low to ground, couldn't claim it. Gaff instead picks it up, heads towards the top of the goal score, and Saligo with the Superman dive rushes it through for the minus score. So Darling came out to claim the contested mark and completely wiped out Murray and Hamill. Murray's still out there. Hamill's making his way to the bench.
Hamill's actually known for his concussion, so hopefully he's okay. He's been missed a lot of footy over the past couple of years through concussion.
28-point lead to the Adelaide Crows. 5 played in the fourth.
Dawson brought the ball in. Adelaide off the pack, forced it forward from Walker, and then hand pass from Miller looking for Rowe. Found the boundary line instead. So we'll get a throw in. So it's at left half back for Adelaide on this broadcast side of the ground. Scoring's dried up for Adelaide. Rain's dried up as well, fortunately, right at the moment. Off the ruck contest, Parnell at the back for Adelaide. Went down the line of the centre square. Rowe outmarked by Hearn. And West Coast go back through the corridor.
So Hearn inside, found Duggan. Now uses Witherden. Handball out towards Barris on the logo. Sells some candy around Murphy, western side. Goes long on the left, inside 50. O'Brien's in the hole. Kennedy flies in front of him, can't claim it. Spills down to Petrevski-Seaton, paddled it off to West. He's wrapped up in the tackle. Got a handball late to Darling. He can't go anywhere. Ball up, 30 out. Tight angle to the right. Scoring opportunity for the West Coast Eagles, who've had all the momentum in this final term. O'Brien wins it down through the hands of West. Parnell lost it. At the back, Murray can pick it up for Adelaide. Handball straight into the knees of Kelly. He's wrapped up in a tackle. Crouch got boot to ball, wasn't even 5. Miller are there, gave it off to Keys, tumbles it up through the western side on the logo. Hearn coming out as the last man to meet it, throws his body on the line against Walker, just diving in, can't pull it out. Murphy got it out for the Crows to Laird, he turns it over. Now Witherden up towards the 50, through a pack, trickles about 40 out. Kennedy's trying to pick it up, Petrevski-Seaton again ran through, lost it. West can pick it up, snap from 40, it's heading towards home. The West Coast Eagles are alive. 22-point margin at the Adelaide Oval. The Eagles with the first 2 of the final quarter. 10-10-70 plays 7-6-48. 7 played in the final term. Liz Walsh downstairs.
I've just heard from the Eagles. Isaiah Winder has been subbed out of the game with a hurt knee. It is Patrick Naish who's now in.
Just to give them a bit more run in this final quarter. They've all of a sudden come alive, West Coast. And there's absolute murmur of discontent has become a little bit more than that for the home crowd here at the Adelaide Oval. So that margin's back to 22 points, 7 minutes into the final quarter. So here we go again. Both clubs heading for a bye after this match. Probably need it. It's a hard slog out there. Lots of football on the ground. And we'll get a secondary ball up within the centre circles. After it was all nullified, it came down this time to Gaff. Gaff clears the area. Rolling towards half forward. Beats everybody. Socket by Waterman wide. Haitley looked like he got one in the back. No call from the umpire. Now it comes to Haitley again. He's rolled around on the ground, tried to get a hand pass off. Berry goes in. He couldn't get it either. It's finally come to Darling for West Coast. Sends his ball towards goal. Well done by Kennedy. Against 2. On the left foot. On the snap. And hits the post. Oh, that was a near thing. It would have been a very, very interesting goal if West Coast had scored that. They're on the move. Adelaide in defence, leading by 21 points. It was as high as 46.
Dawson chips it out of the defensive goal square, spots McHenry in the right back pocket. Ebbs, Tales, are you expecting anything like this in the final term?
Well, interesting enough, Adelaide Crows haven't had an inside 50 to West Coast 8. So we spoke about, wanting to see some effort and intensity from West Coast in the last quarter because they've got blown away last week by Western Bulldogs and many weeks before that. And they've come out and they're eager to get this, go back home with these 4 points.
Crows are second to the ball at the moment too. We can see the ground ball gets in West Coast favour at the moment too.
McHenry's kick was off hands for a boundary throw-in. O'Brien slaps it down looking for Saligo. He overran the footy. Now Smith wrapped up by a couple in the square. Ball up to come. Still inside West Coast attacking half. They've had the only scores this final term, 2 goals, 2. Toss back up. Spills out to the eastern side to Saligo. The Crows head up to right half forward. Nice kick to Fogarty. Takes it on the chest. Edwards went to ground. So Fogarty arches the back. Wheels. Heads to the top of the square. Walker somehow claimed it. Lost it in the air against Barris. Just stuck his hands out and it fell right in his lap. Taylor Walker straight in front. 15 out. Has been gifted a goal at the northern end. This might damage the Eagles' hopes of a comeback. Their all-time leading goal kicker, Taylor Walker, marches in from 20, splits the middle. He's got 3. And the game is back on Adelaide's terms. 11-10-76, plays 7-7-49, 27 points the margin. 10 played in the final quarter on Grandstand AFL.
Taylor Walker, just exceptional one-on-one player, isn't he? He knows how to position his body and he reads the flight of the ball so well in the air, and a defender nightmare there for Barras being 1v1 deep inside 50 against Taylor Walker, you'd think, and great finish there too.
And Darcy Fogarty actually having understanding of to wheel and go. He saw Taylor Walker in that matchup and he knew that, Taylor would take that mark and he could have, taken back. And West Coast, again, what they've been doing over the past 2 quarters, they've been flooding the Adelaide Crows forward line, but Darcy Fogarty wheels around and hits Taylor Walker up.
Walker with 21 goals for the season. Adelaide, again, get back a little bit of breathing space. 27 points clear. Out of the middle, Philthorpe's gone into ruck. There was a Shepherd at centre half forward, or a block in the marking contest, and so the free kick will go to Shannon Hearn for West Coast. Hearn flares out wide, Barris with the mark. He's at left half forward, eastern side of the ground. Down the line he goes. That drizzling rain still falling here at the Adelaide Oval. So West Coast down towards half forward. Wasn't Clark's best kick. It's turned over. Adelaide go forward. Berry with a forward hand pass finds Rowe. Wide he goes to the boundary line to Miller. He can't get it over Barris. And he took a strong mark at left half back.
Sends his kick to the skipper, Shuey. Called to play on. He'll head down the corridor. Spots West in the hole. The kick was a bit too high. Got a hand out but couldn't reel it in. Dawson's handball not clean either. He has to go again. Slaps it back. Trying to get it towards Smith, but Cripps instead soccers off the deck. Gets it to Clark, who kicks straight into the chest of Hamill. It's messy footy out on the western side. And Connor West is swung in a tackle by Brodie Smith. Ball up to come short of right half forward for the Eagles. 27 points the margin. Ball up. Thilthorpe again in the ruck, caught behind Jamison, won it down, straight to Matt Crouch, who slapped it looking for Ben Keys. He threw a boot out on the deck, wrapped up by Jamison though. Shuey dives in as well. Umpire says holding the ball. Not sure Keys ever really had possession until he was caught in the tackle, but free kick to the visitors. Callum Jamison, the 200-centimetre ruckman, leans back on the kick and skies it up towards Kennedy. Fist comes from Thilthorpe, bounces off the top of his knuckle and skies its way to the right forward pocket for the Eagles. Boundary throwing to come at the Riverbank stand end. West Coast hot early in the fourth. Adelaide with the one to answer back.
In comes the ball. Thilthorpe comes and knocks it to the front. Berry doing some good work in low. Got it towards Hamill, who then escorted it over the boundary line. They force it 35, 40 metres from goal now. So West Coast coming hard in this last quarter, but Walker's goal settled the nerves for the Adelaide fans. 27 the margin. Back into play. Jamison flipped it over the back. Ball found its way to Murray for Adelaide. On the ground and in dispute again. They all go at it. Thilthorpe stands up. Got a hand pass over his shoulders somehow to Miller. Down the line he goes. Logo on centre wing. Hearn dragged down. McHenry picked the ball up and now he's ruled to have been tackled and holding the ball. Interesting decision. Crowd didn't like it, of course. And the free kick will go to Foley for West Coast.
The laid in for Jeremy McGovern. On the 45, heads to centre half forward. Spots Hearn. Marks uncontested. Completes the switch out to the eastern side. Behind left half forward with it and pops it short. Hits Clark outside the 50. Stepped off his line, so did McAdam. Instead, the umpire just says play on. Into the left forward pocket, it clears the pack and off hands. Will travel over the boundary line. Toss back into play, left forward pocket for the West Coast Eagles. Crows fans don't like any decision that doesn't go their way. They reckon they've won most of the count here this year. They're very vocal about any sort of whistle. Toss back into play. Thilthorpe lost Jamison, slapped it straight to Redden though. Snaps from 35, it's curling towards the goal square. Darling tries to claim it 2-on-1 and couldn't reel it in. Boundary throwing to come once again, left forward pocket.
It's been an interesting matchup. I mean, Nick Murray's done a pretty good job when he's found himself on Kennedy and Darling. Nick Murray playing 18 AFL games with Kennedy with 286 and Darling with 246. So, I mean, he's been thrown in the deep end with butts missing with COVID protocols and then a concussion. He's finding himself doing okay against the big man.
So we'll get another ruck contest. Since quarter time, West Coast have kicked 7 goals, 6, and Adelaide has added only the 6 goals, 8. So West Coast outside 50, they got the ball, and inside 50 goes Gaff with his kick off the side of the boot, out on the full eastern side of the ground. Tom Duday will be the recipient for Adelaide with the free kick. And he comes over the boundary line, plays on, goes long out on the eastern side. Ball falls right to the back. Barris picks it up for West Coast, high back inside 50. Kennedy, he's surrounded, and ball, Hinge got one high there as he tried to go for the ball as it fell off the pack. Might have been Kennedy, the offender, and the ball went over the boundary line, but a free kick. And in fact, it was Kennedy. It's a double bunger, actually. He got it from Kennedy with a push high into Shuey, but a free kick regardless.
So Mitch Hinge has it in defensive 50 for the Crows. They lead by 27 points, 11-10-76, 7-7-49, 10 to play. Still time for the Eagles. Kick down the lines off hands for a boundary thrown on the eastern side. Andrew Gaff has 29 for West Coast. For the Crows, they've been sharing the load today. Laird with 28, Crouch 27, Keys 26. Still to come, the Suns and North Melbourne in Darwin. That's where you're headed next. Leicester in the ACT, you've got the NRL coming up. Off hands, Redden for the Eagles. Gets it off to Clark. Now Barris around the body. Kick short to Cripps. Off hands, it spills down to Crouch. Lost it in the tackle. Picked up by Hinge. Adelaide are out. Keys outside of the boot. On the bounce, finds Hearn, who slips. Caught in 2 tackles, who didn't expect him to fall. Somehow gets it out. Nelson across half back. Finds Foley. Now looking to switch across defensive 50 to Edwards. Took a bit of time, was caught in the tackle on the kick. Tumbles its way though to Naish. The medical sub on for Winder. Kicks around the body. Does well to keep it just inside the field of play. No. Hoff diving in, I thought, took that inside the line, but the umpires instead decided it'll be a boundary throw-in.
Bubbled it one side and then the other side.
There you go. Bit of sun seeping into the Adelaide Oval at the Cathedral end as well. Maybe a little sign for the visitors. There is some hope.
Well, it's not quite 4 seasons in one day because it certainly hasn't been hot this afternoon, but we are seeing a little bit of clear weather now. Throwing his foot at the ball that time was Redden for West Coast. Somehow it wasn't a free kick. West Coast through Jamieson, get down to centre wing. Picked up by Murray for Adelaide. Off the side of the boot towards the centre. Parnell went in low, might have been hurt the first gamer. It came to Redden, Gaff threw it out. Umpire called play on. West just with a wide hand pass. Sent it out to the eastern side of the ground. Saligo out there. Bowled over by Darling, who now gets the ball. Hand pass forward. West Coast take a couple of hand passes, then inside with the kick, finds Petreski. Seaton dives in low and takes it at centre half forward. Sweeps it to Shuey. He's at the top of 50 at right half forward. Inside 50, the lead from Kennedy wide. And that pair over time would have combined a lot. Kennedy with the mark. He'll back up outside 50 to take the shot at goal. Just back behind play. Paddy Parnell in his first game coming off the ground. We'll get down to Liz Walsh in a moment. Umpire just speaking to Kennedy, telling him what he can and can't do before he calls play on. So Kennedy lining up. That's sunshine in the eyes of the spectators now. We haven't seen that a lot of times this afternoon. We have seen a fair bit of rain. Kennedy with that little hitch step comes in from 49, starts it on the right post, goes right across the goal face and sneaks in maybe. We're going to get a score review. It looked like a goal from this position up here, but obviously the umpire's a lot closer and they've called for a score review. So Kennedy with a chance just to reduce that margin back to 21 points. We'll wait.
Swing on that crossy. I reckon Riley O'Brien lost it in the air because of the way that it curled.
It started probably outside the right post and finished just inside the left post from the kick at half forward right. So there was a little bit of Terry Alderman with the Fremantle doctor about that ball, the way it floated towards goal. What do our experts think? Is this a goal or not?
I think it's a goal. It doesn't seem to hit Riley O'Brien's hand, and I mean, the only thing I can see is that potentially he's hit the goalpost cover.
Review complete. Looking at this
We'll
angle,
find out now.
we can see no spike on edge as the ball passes the post. Decision on scoreboard.
In other words, that's a goal.
It is. It was an unconventional kick, and I think that's what distracted us. Usually it's quite clear to tell if there's been a deflection, but with the angle the ball was moving off Josh Kennedy's boot, it was hard to predict that one.
So Kennedy's first of the afternoon, West Coast's 8th. So they go on to 8-7-55, Adelaide 11-10-76, and we're into time on in the final quarter.
Let's head downstairs to Liz Walsh on the boundary.
Yeah, Patrick Parnell came from the ground. He's being looked over by the physio and doctor still. It looks like he's having trouble with his right hamstring, so we'll keep an eye on him.
A pretty heavy collision in the middle of the ground. Not what you want to see for the debutant, who's been very impressive so far. 15 touches. A couple of tackles as well. Liz Walsh again.
Yeah, sorry. Patrick Parnell's getting ice on his quad now, and Harry Schoenberg is putting on his jumper. So we've got a sub here.
In the middle, Williams won it down for the Eagles. Kelly sliding in, couldn't reel it out. Ball up to come. So both medical subs set to be activated. Winder out with a knee issue. Naish in for the Eagles. And now Schomburg will come on for Parnell. Another clearance for West Coast. Shuey, errant kick down the line. Found its way to Dawson, waiting at right half back. Still time to play. 7.5 remaining in this final quarter.
That would be an interesting stat. Debut and subbed off. I wonder if that's happened before.
I feel like it may have, but I can't honestly remember off the top of my head.
Hopefully that's just a corky that he's picked up there, but he did look pretty sore in the middle of the ground.
Down the line, Dawson's kick off hands carries over the boundary line.
So O'Brien has the better of the ruck contest, knocks it forward. Berry, who's had a pretty good afternoon, hands it over to Laird into the forward pocket, the scoreboard pocket, and McAdam takes it, but he just can't pull up in time. Over the boundary line, 25 around from the goals. Adelaide allegedly attacking. They haven't done a lot of it in the final quarter, just the Walker goal when he took that mark 10 metres out, basically straight in front, put them 27 points clear. It's 21 now. Ball comes back into play. Off hands McHenry as Laird just went flying through the pack, and he was looking at a push, but no decision there from the umpire except to throw the ball in the air again. Williams had the better of it for West Coast. And then a big tackle made, and umpire says that's holding the ball. And Laird got his just desserts in the end for his efforts. And getting up, shaking his head was Liam Duggan for West Coast. So Laird will have a shot at goal, 30 metres out. He'll back up outside 50. Jordan Dawson coming across saying, hey, maybe you could give it to me, but he was cut off there. So, in fact, it was Hinge who was looking for the ball, but this will test Rory Laird. He's kicking into what breeze there is. As we look at the scoreboard and the flags up there. So Laird just to finish the job, if you like, for Adelaide in time on. Oh, he's done it. Good kick. Good finish. One that Adelaide needed. I think their confidence has been sapped a little by their second half performance, but nevertheless they're 27 points clear again. Adelaide 12-10-82, West Coast 8-7-55. Deep into time on now in the final quarter on Grandstand AFL.
Nice to see Lairdy finish off there with a goal. He's not one of our typical goal-scoring mids, which is great. I think the second half's been really dominated by some really long down the line territory-style footy from Adelaide, and I think there's not been a lot of run, and that's obviously because of the conditions. But it doesn't really make for free-flowing or watchable footy.
The voice of Talia Radan alongside Ebony Marinoff. Jordan McArdle, Aaron Bryans, Neil Cross with you as well. Back to a 27-point lead for the Crows. Clutch finish from Rory Laird. May have just iced this game. In the middle, they'll get another clearance as well. O'Brien hands it off to Keys. Skies it inside 50. Fogarty nearly claimed it against Witherden. Comes to ground. Murphy threw it on the boot. Up towards the top of the goal square. Barris read it well through the air. Walker was a bit late. Takes the intercept for the Eagles in defensive 50. Barris hands it off. They're trying to race away, but Witherden only went as far as McAdam, who stood in his way. Had to get it off to Edwards. It turns it over to Schomburg. The medical sub is crunched in the tackle. Got it out, though. Rowe now wrapped up. Gave it to Walker. Underground hand pass through the legs of Rowe, trying to be fancy to Fogarty. Cut off by the Eagles. Duggan sliding in. At the back, Hoff can clear it. Panic kick only as far as Brodie Smith at right half forward. Just wanted to bang it clear. And Adelaide get another chance. Smith heads into the scoreboard pocket. Big run up from McAdam. Huge fly. Couldn't bring it down. Shuey's caught high in the tackle at the fall of the ball. Free kick to West Coast, down by 27, 5 to play on Grandstand AFL.
A little bit of afters there, and behind the players the ball came in. Duggan and Fogarty were involved in a wrestle. Shuey, meanwhile, decides to play on. Goes long with his kick into the centre of the ground. Waterman brought it down and then lost it as he tried to gather again. Petrevsky, Seaton, hang on. There's a free kick behind play. Waterman didn't appreciate the attention he got from Keys for Adelaide. So it'll be a free kick to Keys. And he's right at the front end, basically, of the centre square for the Crows, attacking that cathedral end of the Adelaide Oval. He drives the ball long, huge pack, Ball finds its way to the back. Nelson just released a hand pass in hope. Picked up by Murphy close to the line for Adelaide. Centres the ball brilliantly. McHenry is on the receiving end of a very good pass. Saligo, in fact, it is. Saw the hair flying. So Saligo on the end of the pass. And he will go back from no more than 20 metres out straight in front.
Well, a much better kick. Lockie Murphy's had 12 disposals and I think he sits around 10% efficiency today. I mean, he's a pressure forward.
It would have been out on the full if he'd had the shot at goal.
Exactly. But Jake Saligo, that's off-ball running as a wing. You don't always get a day out on the wing, but it just creates opportunity when you fill that void, and he's a well-loved member of the football club. And
importantly, finished the job there with the goal. So Adelaide get a little bit more momentum back as we close in on full time. Adelaide 13-10-88. West Coast 8-7-55 on Grandstand AFL. Your experts this afternoon, Ebony Marinoff and Talia Raden.
Just touching on what Ebony was just talking about, it just really shows the importance of our wings to our game plan, and how well then Saligo was able to, run hard forward and really provide that additional option, and he created an outnumber inside forward 50 by doing that. So, great to see.
Jordan Mercado with us as well. Hot start for the Eagles in that final quarter, showing some life. Unfortunately, they're not going to get it done, but do you take much away from it now that they've shown a little bit of gusto?
I think so. We asked for some increased effort, and they've certainly done that. Their defensive pressure's up, their run's up, and they kicked 4 goals that either side of three-quarter time. So certainly some positives to finish this match at least.
6-6-6 free kick going the Eagles' way. Bailey Williams goes long into the 50s, looking for Darling. Spoiled away from him. Kennedy on the chase, has to wrap up Saligo. Lost it before he gained it, and the umpire sees that as a free kick. Holding the man. Adelaide to receive it, right back pocket. Still to come today, the Suns in North Melbourne in Darwin. Melbourne in Sydney tonight at the MCG. Clearing kick out of defensive 50 for the Crows. A pack awaits. There's plenty of players around the footy. And Bryant on hands and knees couldn't get a handball away. Sliding in, Laird tried to do the same. It's picked up by Nelson. Bangs it towards the 50 for the Eagles. Cripps in front position under immediate pressure from Saligo. Swung in the tackle. Got a handball away, but the tackle was dangerous. Free kick to the visitors. 33-point deficit late. Jamie Cripps, one of their better players this season. Disposal number 14 for him, heads to the top of the goal square. 4 Crows backmen rise in front of poor old Sam Petrevsky, Seaton and Darling, and knock it through for a minor score. 32-point margin, 13-10-88, plays 8-8-56. So the way that we're going with the West Coast Eagles with that 32-point deficit, it's certainly not going to be one of their worst losses of the year. If anything, it's only going to be their 3rd worst. So positive signs heading into the bye crossing.
Jordan Dawson brings it back in for Adelaide. Comes this broadcast side. At the front of the pack as it came off was Gaff. He just knocked it forward. Darling picked it up, put it back inside 50 on the bounce. And now we'll get another ball up as it was gathered by Hinge for Adelaide. So ball to be put in the air by the umpire. It's about 25, 35 metres out from goal. Tapped down towards Shuey, and Shuey comes back on the left foot and from 50 sends it long, and sitting back there was Dawson, who's had a good afternoon. Very tidy with his disposal, Jordan Dawson. He's coming up for his 5th disposal of this final quarter.
Dawson runs across the goal face, no pressure really. Can think about where he wants to go and sends it long to left half back. Packer waits, so Brian had to spoil it in the end from behind. Over the boundary line on the paint of defensive 50 for the Crows. Crowds seem to be pretty happy at the moment, although there's not that many of them. Final number is 22,859, so you're pretty bang on there, Crossy, with your prediction. Toss back in, Jamison knocks it down. Murphy was front and square. Quick clearance for Adelaide was wide. Took a bounce before it carried over the boundary line. So to be tossed back into play. Injury news from the game so far. Isaiah Winder subbed out early in the 4th. Has a knee problem. Patrick Naish came on. Still out there at the moment. Patrick Parnell in a big collision in the middle of the ground on debut. Seems to have a quad issue. So he's been subbed out of the game as well for Harry Schomburg. O'Brien takes it out of the ruck contest. Tried to get it to Rowe. Immediately gang tackled. He's not going anywhere. And holding the ball. Not sure how much pride James Rowe had there. Free kick to West Coast. Redden races back, doesn't want to waste any time. Into the 50 he goes, looking for Kennedy. He's got so many players around him. He just doesn't have any chance of clunking the footy, and off hands it rolls over the boundary line. West Coast forwards up against it in the latter stages of this final term.
It's an interesting choice that Adelaide have been going with. Obviously, Riley O'Brien found himself back in the team with Riley Thilthorpe. He's only had 6 touches today, but he's been influential when he's helped out in the ruck. I think they're trying to find who that next best second ruck is with, Himmelberg helping out and Taylor Walker takes the stoppages in the forward 50, but it'll be interesting to see how they play that out in the second half of the season.
So out of the ruck contest, Hamill with a tackle and rewarded with a free kick, and he comes to this broadcast side of the ground. Kelly in the washing machine in there, and then finally cleared away by Laird just down towards centre wing. Edwards picks it up inside with a hand pass for Witherden, and then off. Awful kick made there from Duggan with his disposal, but West Coast are able to retain control, and they'll send it inside 50 through Nelson. Comes off hands. Shuey with a lovely diving hand pass as he gathered, got it to the goal line, and the snap by Kennedy was just long enough. No, it was touched on the goal line. We're going to get a review, I think, possibly. What's the umpire calling? No, he's happy with what the goal umpire said. And Kennedy with the snap from 25 after Shuey's Superman dive. Touched on the goal line, possibly in the end by Darling for the minor score.
31-point game at the Adelaide Oval, 13-10, 88 to 8-9, 57. Crows surging towards their 4th win of the season, both teams with a bye to come next week. Redden gets it off the clearance out defensive 50, but the panic kick inside 50 only as far as Dawson. Outstanding second half from him. Centres across the defensive goal line. Spots Brodie Smith. Just killing time, the Adelaide Crows, after what's been a really highly contested game in the wet. Smith heads long down the line. Walker with the sit and claims a great mark on Hearn. Far from goal, but a nice little late highlight. The Crows end their losing streak and hand West Coast their worst start in history. Adelaide win by 31 points. They rarely look troubled across the afternoon, the Adelaide Crows. They're led by 31 at quarter time. The Eagles didn't kick a goal in the first term. Adelaide up by 38 at the major break, 35 at three-quarter time. West Coast with 2 early goals to open up the margin, but it wasn't enough. Adelaide surging home to win by 31. They're 4-8. West Coast's worst start in history, 1-11. McAdam, Fogarty and Walker all had 3. 2 to Saligo, singles to Laird and Millerer. For West Coast, 2 to Darling, singles to West, Kennedy, Cripps, Petrevski, Seaton, Redden and Gaff. With you for the next 10 minutes on Grandstand AFL before we head to Darwin for the Suns in North Melbourne. Our listeners in the ACT, you'll be headed to the NRL as well. A big thanks to Ebony Marinoff, who has to race off to some post-game festivities, but she was outstanding this afternoon leading the coverage. And been great to have Talia Radin alongside us as well. Talia, sorry that your first game wasn't really an impressive one, but as a Crow supporter, I imagine you'd be quite happy. What did you take out of it?
Well, you're right. It's just nice to have a win on the board, isn't it? And to hear the song, it's been too long. 5 losses in a row isn't what you want. And I mean, that'll release a little bit of pressure on Matthew Nix and his coaching panel. It'd be nice for them to enjoy that, and for the playing group too. It's difficult to go through a period of consecutive losses, and it can get hard to get up and about for the next week. So I'm sure that will inject a little bit of energy into the group, particularly with the bye coming up, and hopeful that holds the group in good stead going forward.
So after the bye, the Crows have the Suns, North Melbourne, and then the reigning premiers in Melbourne here at the Adelaide Oval. So could win 2 of the next 3 and maybe try and keep their season alive. Meanwhile, the West Coast Eagles, it doesn't get any easier from here. So after their bye, Geelong, Essendon, Richmond to come. Obviously, their worst start in history at 1-11. They did avoid one unwanted record, which was the 50-point blowout. So if they'd lost today by that margin or more, it was going to be 8 straight, which was an AFL record. Thankfully, that didn't happen for them, so it isn't completely rock bottom, but at least they showed some signs late. Unfortunately, early they were just woeful with the ball.
Oh, their skill execution was really terrible, and it's an interesting one. I think when you're under that much pressure and when you're constantly losing, it's not just the pressure, but it's also the perceived pressure, and you can really see that with some of West Coast ball movement. You know, a fumble or a drop mark, and perhaps the pressure isn't actually there, but it sort of niggles away in your mind, and you expect the pressure to always be there. So, and on the flip side of that, I think it was a great opportunity today for Adelaide to really be the dominant force on the ground and to have the game on their terms. And the pressure comes as a result of that, and we could see that the pressure from Adelaide was comprehensively better probably across the game. Bit of a flat second half for Adelaide, but I think they started well, and that set the tone for the game really.
Good news for Eagles fans in what is unfortunately a disappointing loss. They actually went up in percentage, so they started the round in 49. They're up to nearly 51. Still behind North Melbourne, who do have a game to come up next against the Gold Coast Suns. Jordan McCarter was watching on with us as well in the commentary box. George, what did you take out of the game?
Yeah, at least the Eagles won the third and fourth quarters. So, yeah, it's something positive after half-time. It almost felt the game was over at half-time, wasn't it? You don't win too many games when you can't kick a goal in the opening term. So, yeah, that proved to be the difference in the end, really. 5-0 in that opening term. There's at least a few positive signs, wasn't there? They at least improved their effort after half-time. That probably that Jack Redden goal late in the third really gave them that little bit of a spark. They kicked 4 on the trot, 2 either side of three-quarter time, but yeah, the damage was done already, wasn't it, in the end, with the Crows' bright start proving to be the difference.
Good to see Jack Darling get a decent game under his belt as well. I know he's been scoring in most games this year, but a lot of them have been in junk time. Yeah,
definitely 2 in the second quarter, and had a hand in their other one as well, so probably could have had 3 goals himself in that second quarter alone. He's got 6 goals in 2 games now. We always knew he was going to have a slow start to the season. He was always kind of behind the 8 ball, wasn't he, when he was training on his own for most of the pre-season through well-publicised reasons. And he was that real physical presence in that second quarter, and certainly showed a little bit. Not many other positives in that forward line, really, was it? Kennedy lifted a little bit late, but yeah, he was pretty quiet, well blanketed by Tom Dode for most of the game. So yeah, he was okay, wasn't he, Jack Darling? Which it probably sets him up after the bye as well now.
Unfortunately, we do talk about the rebuild at the West Coast Eagles. A lot of the younger players didn't really stand out today. It was kind of those senior guys that were trying to get the job done.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, Shuey was serviceable, wasn't he? He still looks a step off the pace. He's had a few injuries over the last couple of years, but he still won 10 clearances. So yeah, he at least fought the game out and finished with 27 disposals as well. I thought Gaff was pretty good. He was probably up there with the Eagles' better players, Hearn as well. So we keep describing the 30-plus guys, unfortunately. So I thought Hoff showed a little bit early on, and Cal Jamison as well, a couple of the younger players. But in the end, when you're looking at their best, it is probably those 30-plus-year-old guys, which certainly is a worrying sign for a team that's on the rebuild at the moment.
The Adelaide Crows make their way off the Adelaide Oval. Quite a crowd this afternoon, 22,000 in the wet, but they'll certainly be pleased that they head into the bye, snapping their 5-game losing streak at 4-8 after a really rough month of footy against some of the top-tier teams. They've got a pretty decent run from here for the remainder of the season, the Adelaide Crows, in terms of the quality of opponent. West Coast today, obviously, Gold Coast and North Melbourne to come, Hawthorn in there as well, West Coast again, North Melbourne twice. So the Adelaide Crows could be hoping they could push somewhere towards the 10 to 12, 13 mark if they can continue this way, but at least they got the win, which would have been pretty ugly if they didn't get it done this afternoon. Let's head down into the rooms and see how they're feeling with Liz Walsh.
Yeah, Paddy Parnell has walked into the room first, and it's really nice. All the family and friends are allowed back in the room. Oh, hold on, let's listen in first and then I'll come back. Also in there is Jake Saligo. It's his first win in Adelaide colours. Oh, we're waiting for someone. Who are we waiting for? Oh, here he is, Jordan Dawson, with more energy drinks to throw on the boys. Here we go. So as you can hear, a very happy Adelaide rooms down here. And as I was saying before, it's starting to feel like normal, that family and friends are allowed back in the change rooms again. Patrick Parnell's family are front and centre, watching on very proudly.
And Liz, how does Paddy look down there? Has he still got the ice on the quad?
No, he didn't. He came into the rooms and the ice was off the quad. So that's good news for him.
Great news for the debutant who finished the game with 15 disposals subbed out in the final quarter, but really elite use with the footy in the wet. I know he's listed as 50% kicking efficiency, but a lot of the times he was hitting targets, it was under really tricky conditions. So well done to Paddy Parnell on debut. Coming up next, we're headed to Darwin, the Suns and North Melbourne with Quinton Hull and Michael Price. But just firstly, Talia, 3-2-1 in the ABC Footballer of the Year.
I think 3 today, 3 votes to Walker. I think having 3 goals won and 22 disposals for a key forward is very impressive, but more so just his presence around the ground and the way that he brought others into the game today was really, really great. I think 13 of those possessions were contested as well, which for a big key forward again is very impressive. Dawson with 2 votes, I think. I just am so impressed, and I'm sure the wider supporter base, we're just so lucky to have him on our list this year. He's 89% kicking efficiency today, 19 kicks, but the way that he's just so measured and calm off halfback today, really crucial, and he set us up across the grounds. And I think just a 1 vote mention to Riley O'Brien. I think 40 hitouts today really just stamped his authority, as we probably should expect him to against a relatively inexperienced ruck, but I think he did give our mids first use all day, which is what we were after.
Talia, congratulations on your debut.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Having me.
Thanks to Jordan McArdle as well, who's had to race off. He's heading down to the presses. He's got plenty of work still to come at the Adelaide Oval. Thank you for joining us on ABC Radio and Sport Digital. It was a very ugly game, Crossy, but we got there in the end, especially the Adelaide Crows, 4-8 now heading into the bye. The West Coast Eagles showed some fight late, but not enough to avoid their worst start ever in the AFL at 1-11. The Crows led by 31 points at quarter time. They kicked 5 unanswered goals. West Coast with just the 1 behind for the 8th time in their history in the opening term. Fought back a little bit in the second quarter, but Adelaide still pushed that margin out to 38 points. In the third, it dropped down to 35, and then the Eagles had, 4 goals either side of three-quarter time to make a game of it. It got as low as 21 points. Adelaide pushed it back up to 31 to win the game. It's 13-10, 88-8-9, 57. 3 votes to Taylor Walker, 2 to Dawson, 1 to Riley O'Brien. 3 goals to Walker, McAdam and Fogarty, 2 to Saligo, singles to Laird and Millerer. Meanwhile, for the West Coast Eagles, 2 to Jack Darling, who seemed to have his best game of the season, you'd say. Singles to Gaff, Redden, Petrevsky, Seaton, Cripps, Kennedy and Connor West as well. Thank you for your company tonight. Melbourne up against Sydney at the MCG. Big game there, the reigning premier and the bullish young Swans. But coming up next at Darwin, it's the Gold Coast Suns up against North Melbourne. And our listeners in the ACT, you're off to the NRL. Enjoy the remainder of your afternoon.